I'm Elliot Reeves, this is Paul Shields, and you're watching The Elliot Reeves Show. Paul, how are you, my friend? It's great to have you here.
I'm great, man. Nice to be here, man. I love your studio. The setup's so good, man.
Thanks so much.
It's such a nice environment for you to come and do a podcast. I've got to say, like, when I'm asking people to come into my flat and come down to my basement, I'm like that. Maybe I should try and improve my setup a wee bit. But aye, man, I'm great, man.
That's awesome. That's brilliant. So I mean, we met. I was on your podcast a few weeks ago. I think we were in the best possible studio. We were actually outdoors.
Yeah, I've got a nice garden. I've actually got. I mean, I do have a nice house. I mean, but it's just where I record that is just like a sort of dark, dingy room at the back of my house. But I mean, I've done 2 episodes of yourself, and you were the first one that I put out. I've done Chris Bungard as well. Which is. He does so many podcasts that I'm like, right, Chris Bungard's this week, and then he puts out another podcast. I'm like, right, Chris Bungard. So I'm hoping that with his fight coming up in later on this month,
I was going to say that.
2 weeks, I'm hoping that he's probably going to take his foot off the gas with doing podcasts. So I'm going to put it out the week he's fight, so it gets more traction. But being outside, I mean, it's that back garden's lovely, man. It's just trees and birds, and nature's like the best environment, mate, to do anything. Incredible. I think, like,
totally, it was incredible. One of your neighbours came out, which was made things kind of interesting.
Yeah, they own that furniture as well.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Really?
So that's their garden furniture that we're on, and they were like, "Can we use this? Is this all right?" Like, yeah, sure. Sorry.
I didn't realise that.
They own the house next door. So the way that it works is kind of a strange one. It's like 2 Victorian houses, and then there's a set of flats above, and they own the house next door and one of the flats above. So they're in the process of converting into a sort of 3-story townhouse, but it means that they take charge of a lot of stuff. It's his shed in the back garden, and I think they think that they own that back garden, and I'm like, no chance. I'm having my podcast at there, mate.
Totally. I'd be exact same. Yeah,
get some cool like comments. I mean, there's some of the neighbours have come down and chapped the door and been like, what were you doing at the back?
Really?
Are they mic set up? And I do a podcast, and then they're interested.
New followers.
Yeah, and found out one of them's a doctor, and
Seriously?
Just a wee bit about her and stuff, which I think in 2019 something that we miss a wee bit is a bit of community.
Yeah.
Talking to your neighbours and knowing your neighbours. But it comes in handy because one of the flats above us is an Airbnb.
Right, okay.
And so, slightly... Is it off topic? We haven't got a topic yet, have we? The other week I was sitting in my room, so my bedroom's in the basement, and I've got a ground floor in the basement, but I was sitting and I just noticed all this noise, and I opened my blinds, and there was about 20 or 30, like, what looked to me like 12-year-olds, obviously, like, they were drinking, and I went out and ended up realising that they're like 18, 19.
Okay. But
what had happened was, for a graduation party for high school, somebody's mum had rented this Airbnb for the night, and like 30 18-year-olds descended on the flat above to have a party. They weren't even staying overnight, but they've realised that there's a lovely back garden, and they've decided to go out and just cause carnage. So one of them looked in and seen me sort of probably like an old man. I was like, oh man, looking out like, what he's doing out there? And they were like, sorry mate, we're sorry. And they moved round the other side, and I ended up going out and going, listen, it's alright, don't worry about it, what he's doing, he's live here, just to make sure that they weren't just in my back garden having a piss up.
Yeah.
And it turned out they were in the Airbnb, and I was like, right, fuck it, live and let live. Do you know what I mean? Am I allowed to swear?
Of course, mate.
Is that alright?
Yeah, totally.
Sorry, man.
No.
Should have cleared that up.
Not at all.
But
not at all.
when you live in a nice bit of Glasgow, sometimes for instance, I stay like 5 minutes, if that, away from Kelvin Grove, and on a nice day, you're like, I'll go and sit in the park. But for some reason, it's became this trendy thing for teenagers to descend on the park and get absolutely rat-faced. Rat-arsed, shit-faced there.
Well,
combine both of them.
I'll do it.
But it means that, I don't know if this is a sign of getting old, like, I can't enjoy the park. So I'm going over and I'm like, fuck, there's too many police officers, and you actually kind of just sit down and enjoy the park, which I don't know if that's me just getting old, where I'm like, wish these would all just get the fuck. Like,
how old are you, Paul?
36.
I'm the same age as you.
Oh, right.
Okay,
What you
I didn't
born?
realise that.
83.
Yeah. 3rd
Same
of
as me.
Jan, 83.
Well, I'm 35, 1st November, but
Okay.
I'm in my 36th year, so I just tell people I'm
Okay.
36.
Once you pass 30, it's all downhill. It no longer matters.
That's it, mate.
That was my threshold. Right, okay, I'm old.
Well,
Right,
I'm like I say, that there's a couple of things that are starting to come to me that I'm like, I think I'm getting older. I think I'm no longer can class myself as young because I'm getting pissed off at people drinking in the park. When people are out in my back garden having a drink on a sunny day, I'm going out and seeing what they're all about and what they're doing there. So I think I need to class myself as getting on,
yeah.
as much as I don't like it.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm exactly the same. That pissed me off. So let's go back to the early days. Tell me about your early life.
Well, how early are we talking
Right,
about? As a kid?
let's go right to the beginning.
I mean, I've had quite a lot of sort of things, should we say things, but mental health issues. I wouldn't say I've had a lot of mental health. I've not had a lot of sort of mental illness. I don't think I've had any mental illness, but I think we all sort of struggle a wee bit, and I've had quite a few struggles. So I think quite a lot about and I have thought quite a lot about my childhood. So strap in.
Okay, man. Yeah.
But I mean, I had a typical. I had an actual working class upbringing. I grew up in a scheme in Glasgow, so the first sort of memories that I've got are really nice. I mean, I can remember the nice summers that we used to get and the cold winters, and that is the sort of mental imagery when I think about being really young, is sort of family, like me and my sister playing in the back garden, like these types of things. But as it goes on, I then get a sort of feeling of danger. I can remember having to look over my shoulder, having that sort of feeling of constantly having to worry about what's coming round the next corner. And because growing up in a scheme in Glasgow can be really difficult, especially when you're not a traditional sort of man, or you know what I mean, like I'm not the type. I wasn't the type of kid that was looking for a fight. I was the type of kid that was running away for a fight.
Okay.
But so that's the early on, but then I get forced into the space of having to be the type of kid that wants to get into a fight. I felt like I had to sort of prove myself.
Okay.
Got a couple of sort of memories that like my dad, he's no longer with us, but he was a great guy and he's definitely one of my heroes. But I've told this story a couple of times on podcasts. Like, one of the first sort of memories of like having to think about what shapes you as a person was running in the house away for a fight and being sort of like dragged out to fight and being told, if you need to go out and fight, there's no two ways. Like, and I think this was a sort of meeting of an old way of being and then the way that we are just now. Like, I think when you grew up in the 80s and 90s, there was like a slamming together of, my dad, literally, if he didn't defend himself, could have died. But I wasn't in that sort of, it was the end of the schemes. So I could have quite easily have floated through and not fought ever. And I know people that managed to do that. But unfortunately for me, my dad was a wee bit older, so he had like an older sort of idea of what I should have been like. And so I was forced into fighting this wee guy that it was basically just threatening me, and I ran away for it. So my gut instinct was run, and my dad's gut instinct was always to fight. So it's fight or flight, okay. And I was flighting, but my dad was fighting. So I was forced into that sort of, you need to fight. Which has caused its issues for me, because I went out and absolutely annihilated this wee guy and I didn't want to do it. So I was always big. I was always quite strong for my age, and this meant that people had these ideas, or it sort of painted a target on me. And also it meant that people made assumptions about, like, oh, that guy will be able to fight. So if anybody was going to pick on MD, it was always like me. So when
Seriously?
I went, yeah, oh, definitely. My first day of secondary school, remember getting into PE and being in the changing room and somebody saying to a guy that I went to primary school with, what primary school did you come from? And he said, St Thomas's. He went, so who was your top man? pointed at me, and there was literally a queue of people wanting to fight me, because all the best fighters for this school and this school and this school all came together into this sort of first year at St Andrews Secondary School in Carntine, and it was like, right, so I need to prove myself. So that is kind of like, I mean, if I think about these types of things, like that is what sort of comes to mind. And like I said, it's had like adverse effects on me as I've came older, because it means that I had it drummed into me that the first reaction should be attack. And so like when, and no even in situations where it needs to be like actual physical fighting, but even just, for instance, getting into social situations when I went to uni, I would always need to be the alpha. So if people were even trying to have a laugh or a joke at my expense, I couldn't have that happening. So I would need to be like, ha ha ha, and then wait for a quiet moment for me and this individual, and then basically go, don't you ever do that to me ever
Seriously?
again. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've changed so much, like just through what would probably be classed as transactional analysis and thinking about situations that I've been in and attitudes that I've adopted and ways of being, and sort of going, I don't like that and I don't want to be that person. And also going back and thinking about, where does this came from?
Yeah.
And it does all root in this sort of space of, you need to fight.
Mate, we can go back and a lot of that stuff. I think it's fascinating. What do you think was the sort of tipping point? When did you start to realise that your behaviours or your actions weren't like what you wanted them to be?
Well, I was I suffered from, but I was a porn addict. So that was like, and then I went from porn addiction and straight into sex addiction.
So what's a porn addiction?
So I mean, I suppose it's different for each person. But I had compulsive behaviours when it came to sort of pornography and masturbating, and that ended up having an adverse effect on my relationship and my ability just to sort of function as a human being. So I basically just, it was like a rude awakening for me. It was like, whoa. So then we can talk about that, I suppose, a wee bit more in depth, but that made me go back and think about where has that attitude towards sex came from? And then it's made me realise that I had this idea about myself, about being the sort of like, I need to be like masculine, I need to be the alpha, I need to dominate situations, and that meant more sex, more drugs, more drink. That's what it sort of, and I eventually ended up going back to these sort of childhood experiences and realising that is where it stemmed from. This pressure to be the type of person that I definitely wasn't, and like my true self. My true self is like a more sort of sensitive, expressive, like a creative person, and I've always been that, and I sort of stifled that in sort of favour for this sort of macho,
toxic masculine.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so surreal, man, because like, just, I mean, purely based on the conversation that we had and meeting you on your podcast, I'd have never had you for that guy. I'd have thought that you were, somebody that was, emotionally aware, and definitely creative and, sort of open to ideas and stuff. It's quite surprising to hear that.
So another thing that I inherited from my dad, so it wasn't all bad, was this open-mindedness. So I don't know where it came from, because I think amongst my dad's generation, my dad was born in somewhere in the regions of like 1945, like the mid-1940s, and he grew up in a literally like one room with his mum and like 5 siblings in the deepest, darkest of Glasgow. Knife crime, and ran pubs, stab marks on him. But for whatever reason, and I don't know where, I would love to be able to have this conversation with him, but I don't know where it came from, but he was always open to, he was never a bigot. So he was a Catholic, my grandparents were Irish, and he was a Celtic supporter, but for whatever reason, he gave me the choice of Celtic or Rangers, like, which is very unique, especially if you can imagine. But And then when one of my family members came out as being gay, homosexual, he totally embraced it. And he was never racist. He would always say to me, don't ever be bigoted or racist because they're just people. And I inherited this I always carried this open-minded approach to pretty much everything. But I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I've got a memory of him sitting me on his knee and opening up page 3 and going like, oh, look at her, she's a belter, isn't she? And me being like a wee boy and going, oh dad, yeah, she's a belter, ha ha ha. And the conversation was, where was the first sort of pornography, where did that come from? And that stemmed from there as well. So it was a mix, but I mean we get our behaviours, I think, for parents and our sort of formative ideas, and he influenced me like absolutely no end. But thankfully, he gave me this sort of openness, and that's meant that I've been open to recovery. I've been open to newer ways of being. I don't need to be that person, even though the seed rooted from ideas that I got from him, the way out came from him as well.
Yeah. So, did you have struggles with other addictions, or was it just...
I can become addicted to everything.
Right, okay.
I'm addicted to everything. Like, just now, my addiction stems in mental health, positive mental health, mindfulness, meditation, exploring my inner world. But I've not had addiction problems other than porn and sex, but I've had addictive tendencies towards everything in my life. So when I started playing guitar at 15, I did nothing but play guitar for like a year. It was just so into it. Like, nothing could stop me, just sitting playing. And that has stemmed into everything that I do. So work, I became addicted to work and was like, yeah, I've been addicted to food. I was 23 stone at 18.
What?
And now I'm like, then I went down to 12 stone, like,
What?
because I became addicted to losing weight and became addicted to fitness, and I've been at 5% body fat, and so yeah, that sort of goes into everything that I do. I've got this obsessive personality that I need to really just keep like sort of on top of, because it's almost like, I mean, I spoke to somebody and they said to me, you've lived like 4 lives, and you're like 36, and you've gained and lost weight, you were in a band, you toured, you've had a really good job, you've felt the pressure of that, you've had porn addiction, you've had sex addiction, it's almost like all of these experiences that have meant that in my 30s I'm starting to realise that I need to like keep myself under control. Otherwise it just always goes like outrageously bad. Not outrageously bad, but it tends to go to an extreme.
Yeah,
I think that's the best way of doing it, because my extremes in like bands and being in music was always good, was always positive. People would be like, you've got this, like, you've got the personality that you need to do this is what you need, this obsessive behaviour to make it. But the problem comes when you don't make it, and you've still got that obsessiveness and this obsessive sort of personality that goes behind it.
Wow.
So what area do you want to talk about?
Yeah, no, my next question was going to be about, really sort of just directly dig into the addiction itself. What do you think is at the root of that?
The excuse me, the actual porn and sex addiction?
Addiction
or just
as
addiction
a
as a whole? I think that, I mean, for me, it's rooted in low self-esteem. It's rooted in like not being good enough. Okay. This is what I'm working on like right now. I think that...
Do you have a therapist? Do you do counselling?
I'm a qualified counsellor. I've done therapy in the past. If anybody's listening to this and has any sort of struggle going on, go to therapy. Like, I can't be more of an advocate like structured therapy and what it can do for an individual. It's not for everybody, but give it a go.
Was it CBT sort of therapy?
I've done CBT. I think that's
cognitive behavioural therapy.
Yeah. That is a good band-aid.
Right.
So if you have got, so my problems in addiction stems from experiences in childhood. So I mean, I don't know if you would really want to go into specifics with me about what are the experiences, but it's meant that as I've grew up, I've not felt that sort of self-worth. And I think that a better way of saying it is I wasn't given it. So you need to get it for yourself.
Have you been able to pinpoint the exact?
Oh yeah, I've
really,
got 4 or 5. Like,
okay,
and they directly stem into where my addictions have went. So it's always rooted. I think for me, it's always rooted in I'm not good enough. I need to be better. Sort of that's where the perfectionism sort of comes in, the obsessiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Then so for therapy like CBT, that's a good band-aid. So if you've got anxiety, depression, or tendencies of like addiction or whatever it might be, anger, any sort of extreme emotional response to any situation, CBT will give you the tools to get it under control, but it's not going to give you the tools to get rid of it, because it will be rooted in your ideas of who you are pretty much always. And there will be some kind of traumatic experience that no matter how small or how big, that will probably be able to draw a straight line back. But the problem is that Paul at 30 as a porn addict, how does he deconstruct where he is in a failed relationship as a porn addict to Paul at 15? How do you do that when you've got 15 years worth of clouded emotional relationships and bad situations and arguments and whatever else that you're thinking about? CBT allows you to get that sort of clarity, a combination of CBT meditation, but then I did what would be sort of Freudian type psychoanalysis, where you'd sit and with a professional, they help you retrace those steps and then go, oh, there it's there. What happened? Why do you feel like less of a man? Because your dad dragged you out and went, you need to be bigger, you need to be stronger, you need to go out, you need to tell these people that they can't mess with you, because it's all just defense mechanisms at the end of the day. And yeah, so it was CBT and then psychoanalytics, were a combination of hallucinogenics and meditation was the thing that clicked for me. But my opinion on it, because as I said, I'm a qualified counsellor and I'm training to become a therapist, is that it's not a one size fits all. Nobody else will be able to take that experience. And unfortunately for people that I speak to, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for, what did you do?
Like a cookie cutter approach.
Can you tell me what you did so that I can do it? It's not going to work for you, man. The hard work is in the discovering what happened and quantifying it and making sure that you can sort of go, right, how do I stop this for repeated like shit behaviour?
Wow. So, I mean, to take the example of your dad when you were young saying that you needed to fight, I mean, do you regret what you did then? Would you have done anything differently then? Or was it just a means of having to readdress the way that you perceived it, if that makes sense?
Well, I think that to expect to go back and expect 9-year-old Paul to go, no, Dad,
precisely,
this is going to be traumatic for me as an adult. But what should have happened is a refusal and just deal with whatever the consequence of that would have been, which could have been as traumatic. Like if I had went, no, I'm not doing that, my dad could have, like that's basically what happened was, if you don't go out there and fight, then I'm going to hit you. So then that could have been just as traumatic, because like violence, physical or mental, was like traumatic to kids anyway. But I kind of got that because the threat was already there. So that's what motivated me to go out and punch this boy in the face, was the threat of violence from my dad. Which, but the main thing is holding on to that. So what happened is that I held on to that fear, and I've ended up with that running through my full life, where I've been reacting to emotions and this fear of, it doesn't matter that it was the fear of violence from my dad when I was 8. It then, as I get older, it becomes the way I am. And so when I'm in the street and somebody bangs into me, then I instantly get this unconscious, what the fuck are you doing, mate? Who do you think you are? Do you know who I am? And this sort of bravado and puffing of the chest, which ends up you go into situations that you're not proud of, you regret them, and then you just think to yourself, why am I like this? I don't want to be angry. And so then you start to go into the mental gymnastics of, where does my anger stem from? And with the clarity that you get from the therapy, I think it's impossible for you to go back and trace it and go, right, okay, this makes sense to me now. Because I think that for me, what has helped me massively is just making sense at everything that's happened. And then going, right, I understand it now. So now I've got awareness, I can move on and I can not react, because the feelings still come up. Like,
but that's it. You know, it's like you're not you having awareness or you know, sort of conscious understanding of something doesn't simply mean that you're able to sort of repair it or correct it. It just gives you the awareness.
Yeah.
You can still be consciously incompetent on something.
Mm-hmm.
So even although, for example, like my relationship with food, I know that's very destructive, and I've made steps to be able to sort of address it, but I can still find myself eating a cheeseburger.
So what do you do with the awareness? So the way that I've deconstructed this and made it sort of applicable is a journal. So whenever I get those feelings of inadequacy, and it happens a lot. Do you know what I mean? Like, anytime my girlfriend says to me, like, I've done something that she does that's wrong, so in my mind she's telling me you've done something wrong. Might be anything, it could be anything. Like, I've had emotional reactions to coming home and they're saying, like, oh, you didn't put the washing on, I asked you to put the washing on, and then I go through this sort of, oh fuck, right, no, but you did this, and then argument happens, I feel bad, and that is how the sort of destructive cycle works. So what do I do with that? The awareness means that I can not react emotionally in the moment, take a breath, and then write out, why do I feel emotional about this? And then you break the loop. So for me, I can't really give anybody advice when it kind of I know that you're not looking for advice, but I can't really give anybody advice. A lot of people used to say to me, how did you lose weight? Like, oh, tell me what you did. I literally just stopped eating. I used to eat a lot of food, and I just went, nah, man, I'm not doing it anymore. And again, this is where this obsessive thing comes in. If I get an idea in my head of something that I'm going to do, there's nothing that will stop me from doing it. If we go back, I mean, if the last 3 or 4 years, it's been slightly different, because the awareness means that I can intercept and not act.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I would say is how I do it, is that the thought comes up, the emotion comes up, but I never act. Never ever act. I think deeply about what I'm about to do, and then I make a choice. Is it positive or negative? And if it's positive or neutral, I'll do it. If it's negative, I don't do it. And then I'll think about it some more. And then sometimes it might be that I'll be like, no, do you know what? I'm going to do it, like, after a few days. But that is what the awareness allows me to do. That is literally cognitive behavioural therapy in a nutshell. You think about something, you don't act.
And so what's required at that stage is that self-control?
Self-awareness. Like, why am I doing this? Do you know how well do you know yourself? Like,
so the knowledge that it's going to have a negative impact is sufficient in diffusing it?
If you've got... Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, like, sometimes no, sometimes yeah, but it's a journey. So for instance, I've got plenty of journals that tell me exactly how I feel if I watch porn. So if I get that craving to watch porn, then I can either recall, then this is what I'll kind of do in a moment, I'll recall, this is why I don't want to do it. Or if it's really, really chipping away at me, I can read my journals and I can go, right, I know what's going to happen. Tomorrow I'm going to feel like shit. I don't want to do this. And I've had people ask me, well, is porn that bad? And no, but it is for me. because I've went down the rabbit hole and there's no way I can get back out. So if you've got a poor relationship with food, you might get people out there who go, having a cheeseburger isn't that big a deal, man. It isn't.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're trying not to eat that cheeseburger and you eat that cheeseburger, then in your head, you're telling yourself, I'm a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
I've failed.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to do that.
Yep.
And that's where the conflict comes in and then ends up with, right, well, I'll just have another one.
Oh, yeah,
and then
yeah.
I'll just have another one.
Mm.
And then you spiral and then you'll catch yourself and then you'll be like, right, I'm back in the wagon. Monday morning, here we go. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you do great. Wednesday or Thursday, slice of pizza in front of you. Right, do I want to have that slice of pizza? No, don't have it. Eat the pizza. I'm a piece of shit. Here we go. And that's the cycle of destruction that happens, and that can be applied to every aspect. So when people be like, it's not a big deal. That isn't a big deal. It's like, well, if you've set a goal and you're working towards that goal, then it is a big deal. Mm-hmm. It's a big deal to you, and that is what's important to everybody, is how they feel about themselves. Like when people say, I've got a lot of people that will come to me knowing that I'm a qualified counsellor, either on social media, they've heard the podcast, or friends, and they'll say to me like, I just don't feel right. And it's like, you need to bring your awareness to why you don't feel good. And if it is, I want to go to the gym. Let's just say, for instance, I've got a mate in particular that has expressed to me multiple times, I want to go to the gym. I want to start going to the gym, but he starts and he stops and he starts and he stops. The problem is in the starting and the stopping, and the starting and the stopping. You may get somebody out there that goes, but mate, it's just the gym, calm down. Like, but you've set yourself that goal, and it's about your own personal self-esteem. And this is where it comes in. Like, it's the promises that you make to yourself. If you break them, that's a bad place to get yourself into, when you start breaking promises to yourself, because that is ultimately where anxiety comes in, and you start to feel, well, it is for me anyway.
Yeah. No, I can absolutely relate to that entirely, because you feel as though you've failed. Yeah, and it's the story you're telling yourself. Yeah, it is. That's it.
And like, that's what things like meditation, like, that gives you the ability to interact with the thoughts. They're usually thoughts that just happen in your cycle while you're like doing things, and in the back of your mind it's like, oh no, yeah, but remember, you failed yesterday. You failed yesterday. That these are the types of things that just sit and niggle away at people, and then ultimately months down the line they go, I don't know why I don't feel right. And it's just because in your unconscious thought you've got these horrible things that are just chipping away at you. And that comes back full circle to when I was a kid. I was told, you're not big enough, you're not man enough, you're not hard enough. So for instance, like, I don't consider myself a smart person. I've got a degree in architecture. I'm a qualified... That's another one to add to the long line of lives that I've led, is that I got a degree in architecture while I was in a band. And that's something that has really come out in therapy as well. I was saying to them, like, I don't feel like like that I'm smart, or that I'm, I don't know, not an intellectual, because I wouldn't class myself as that, but I don't feel intelligent.
Why?
Because in therapy, I go deeper. I spent my childhood with my dad going, don't be an idiot. Don't be an idiot. Don't let people think that you're an idiot. Like, you need to be smart. You need to be, because that's the only way that you'll survive. Because that is how he grew up. Like, he grew up in a world where you need to be looking over your shoulder, and you need to be this sort of dodge and dive and duck. And that was the world that he was in. I wasn't in that world, but this was, again, through therapy, I realised that there was so many instances where my dad was like, don't be an idiot. Or saying to me, that's stupid, don't do that. And so then, in my mind, I'm like, you're an idiot. You speak to yourself the same way that, like, I think your parents, it's really important to recognise, if you've got kids, the way that you speak to them when they're growing up and what would that word be?
Formative.
Yeah, when they're creating their world, the way that you speak to them is going to be the way that they speak to themselves and others forever, unless they manage to unpick it, which I think I've managed to do, because I don't speak to myself. I catch myself. I do sort of go, that's stupid, don't do that, and then go, but you're not stupid. It's just the way that you speak to yourself is so important.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting topic because your world's different to my world, and what works for you won't work for me. And this is where I find it's so hard to sort of interact with people on social media because they're so closed and we're so single track minded now. And it makes it really difficult for me to be like, because you can't say to somebody over Twitter, listen mate, open your mind. You know what I mean? Like, gonna no be so closed about this certain subject and open your mind to a different idea, because that person that you're screaming at, they don't see it from your point of view because they didn't come up the same way you've come up. And this is so I'll give you for example on this. I used to be ridiculously left wing, ridiculously so. I would have and I didn't even know what it was. Do you know what I mean? Like,
so what were some of your ideals or ideologies are in that?
Like pretty much like Russian Revolution stuff like that. I think that the monarchy should be like take their policies off them.
Okay.
Like, I don't care what happens to them. Like, if you're a billionaire, like, take their money off them.
Right.
Like, pretty much. Like, even though I'd have probably never have said it, that was kind of like where I was thinking.
So let's just we'll undoubtedly move on. But let's take the monarchy then. So why do you think that? Or sorry, why did you think that?
I mean, I still have ideas on the monarchy. I think that taxpayer money going to an allowance of a family that are clearly rich enough to sustain themselves in a time of austerity is ridiculous.
Okay.
Like, ridiculous. People going, but they create X amount. Yeah, but they're so rich and they can keep their riches in their palaces, and that they do some great charity work. But taking 26 million a year, whatever, out of the economy, it's just it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't add up to me. But why did I feel? It's kind of like that. That's why I was angry. I grew up working class. I had failed at being a musician. I wanted to be a musician, and I was just angry. And it was just like, well, why haven't I succeeded? And instead of thinking about what did I do and where did I go wrong, it was almost like who's got and who doesn't, because I don't have. And it's like they're almost the poster, poster people for the haves.
Yeah.
And so it's like, drag them out.
What did it mean to be a failed musician?
What did it mean?
As in what way were you? What way had you failed?
So I'd succeeded in so many ways,
exactly.
But I wasn't a rock star.
You weren't famous,
because
like
that was
on the
the
top
goal.
of the iTunes
that
chart
was the
or
goal.
whatever.
Yeah,
okay.
Aye.
Yeah.
That was the goal. The goal was Liam Monroe and Kurt Cobain. That's it. I want to be Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath. I want to be a great.
Yeah.
And then obviously, like, as I've got older and looking back and thinking, man, you spent weeks on end in the back of a van with your best mates playing guitar, and like nobody can take that away from you.
Having the best time of your life.
Oh
probably.
my god!
Yeah.
Like, I mean, walking down the motorway in pitch black at 4 a.m. because you've ran out of diesel in the van, and the stories and
oh, exactly. Yeah.
I had so much success and getting played on the radio and being at Maida Vale and meeting so many people, like, and supporting like famous bands, and I had so much success that it was, but it didn't even penetrate my bubble of when am I going to be in Murrayfield? When am I going to headline the Barrowlands? Like, when am I going to be headlining Tina Park? I don't want to play at Tea Break at Tina Park. I want to be on the main stage. And it was all the, and, oh yeah, like, you've nailed that. I mean, that, but again, perfectionism comes into it. And I think I actually like alienated a lot of people at that time because nothing was good enough. So guys in the band, I mean, I was a tyrant. I was an absolute tyrant in my band. I was a dictator. I mean, you can understand why I was left. Like, as the Stalin in my band. Oh, 100%. I don't understand why the guys still talk to me sometimes. It's almost like I look back and think about and deconstruct these things, and I do say to them, like, how did you feel when that was going on? And a lot of them were, I mean, the one of my best mates, he's like a brother to me. He's been in all of my bands, and he's always just like, mate, you were the talent. Like, We put up with it because you were the one that was getting us to these gigs. It was all about you. It was nothing to do with us. So we felt like, even though I felt like without them I'm nothing.
Yeah.
They felt without him we're nothing.
What was your role in the
crazy.
band?
I was a lead singer. I was a frontman.
Really?
Oh yeah, and the ego was incredible. It was, yeah.
It sounds like, have you seen the film? I only saw it quite recently. Almost Famous, I think it's called.
Oh, what a movie.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
unbelievable.
What a movie.
Because
Yeah.
the cover of that, I was just like, that looks like a film I never want to see. And then my wife, it's in the house, it was hers, and she was like, oh, that's quite a good film. And I was just like,
That's
really?
a semi-autobiographical story about how Cameron Crowe ended up on tour with Black Sabbath in the 70s as like a teenager. So some of these stories are real.
Yeah, man.
You know
So
what I
totally, yeah. I mean, it was just an epic film. I was like, oh my God. How
And the
good is
songs
this?
as well. And
Yeah.
Jason Lee and those guys learned those songs for that movie and sang them live, and it's incredible. I mean,
Amazing, man.
Stillwater.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I'm a
Yeah.
total movie buff.
Okay.
I worked in Virgin Megastore for 4 years, and I had a DVD collection. It was an incredible DVD collection that I sold ultimately, like, to the guy Missing in Glasgow, Missing Records. He came round and took it and gave me like I think it was a long time ago now, but it was like £1 a DVD I got, so I got like £4,000, so I had like 4,000 DVDs. So like, again, obsessive
I've been
behaviour.
the same, man. I remember when I first got the like my flat, and it was like, being a bloke in your early 20s, what are the things that you totally need in your flat? DVDs, a big telly and DVDs. And I just went absolutely daft buying. I was really into some pretty controversial stuff back then, like tartan films and
I
a
remember
lot of your sort of like Man Bites Dog, Irreversible, Driller Killer, like just really pretty, like Romper Stomper, Scum,
Romper
Bully,
Stomper,
Kids, like all these just quite stuff that will really challenge.
Yeah, Kids is you talk about like a forward thinking movie. I mean, that shocking, absolutely shocking, but that went on and still goes on to this day. Some of the stuff that happened in that movie is just like blows your mind. But these things, this is something that, I mean, where is that? Where does that exist now? Or so I think that maybe I'm out of touch. But I think that the media spectrum has almost been drilled down to the main players, that we don't get that like tartan like thing that's controversial. It just doesn't really exist anywhere. If it does, it's on YouTube and it's been made independently, making no money. Like, you can't imagine Disney putting out Kids or like that being on like Netflix, like Old Boy and things like that. I don't know where it is. I don't see it anymore.
No, you're probably right. And I don't know why that is, actually.
I think it's just so hard for independent creativity to make any money that a lot of people just don't bother getting into it.
Probably.
It's just such I think that the main players have just bought everything up. It's just all went in-house and like Netflix, things like Netflix. I mean, if you for instance, like, we were talking about off camera, we were going to approach James English's homeless documentaries on Amazon.
I know.
I mean, that would be, to me, you would be like, mate, wow, he's not going to make a penny off of that. Like, Amazon aren't going to kick back anything to James. Do you know what I mean? That's an incredible achievement. But for somebody that's wanting to make a movie, the amount of money they would need to put in to make that movie, for it then to go onto Netflix and never make a penny, not even recoup the cost.
I know.
I think that's what's probably stopping a lot of that sort of independent movie. But
yeah, you're probably right.
Probably does exist. Maybe that's part of getting old. Talk about getting old earlier. Get out of touch. But I mean, independent music's the same. It's so hard to find. I mean, when I was even in bands and the NME, you would go to the NME and it would be like, right, I've got a grasp. You would go to even if you went to the back page and look at the touring section, and you'd be like, right, I'll listen to them and them. They're not in the articles, but they're playing in King Tut, so I'll maybe go and see them. And then you'd be like, that's a really good underground band. But now you just don't see it. I mean, Jerry Cinnamon, for instance, to give an example of a Scottish underground act, he's headlining main stages at festivals, and like
Yeah.
after one album, and it's sort of like it's dead, isn't it? It's like dead in the water.
What do you think of current day music?
It's dog shit, isn't it? I mean, I like Jerry. I've had a couple of like interactions with him online, but in comparison to like the Strokes and Oasis and like the bands that, I hate this, but that broke through when I was young, he's nothing. He is nothing. I mean, he's a decent act. He's a good songwriter, but I think it's almost being blown out of proportion for lack of a better option out there. See the guys going to these gigs and setting off with flares and people going mental in the crowd, and you're like, oh, Ed Sheeran headlining Wembley, and you're like, really? Is that where we are? And I think that it's either I'm too old for it, but I don't think that that's the case, because there are a few things. I do still listen to new music and still really enjoy new music. But I do think that it's for lack of a better option that the younger generation want their Oasis, but it's not there. So they're putting up, or they're just sort of going, right, well, this is the closest thing that I'm getting to it, so I'm going to go mental for this. Do you know what I mean? And fair play to him. The guy has done it all off his own steam, and he doesn't have a record label, and I've got so much respect for him. But I've seen better bands like not got off the ground.
Yeah. I am so out of touch with modern. I literally couldn't tell you what's in the charts, who's popular, anything like that.
Neither could I.
It does not interest me.
Nah, me neither.
It doesn't interest me. I think good music died a long time ago for me. I mean, I made a playlist for for our like my podcast and your show coming out, and I could have probably done it in any genre, but I decided to just go with my favourite sort of dance and trance type stuff. I thought that you would probably be a sort of band type.
With the beard and the tattoos.
Well, yeah, I think so, yeah.
Well, I do
mean,
have Jimi Hendrix and a Led Zeppelin tattoo.
Oh, shit, so you do.
It's kind
I
of
never noticed
a wee
that.
bit obvious. I get so many people coming up to me and ask me if it's Bob Marley. And I'm like, no, it's Jimi Hendrix. Oh, right. Oh, yeah, Jimi Hendrix. I get it. But this is the weird thing about dance music is that you get guys that are ridiculously popular and get like 250,000 listens on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
And again, no making a bean.
No, man, not at all.
No making a penny. Having to
Yeah.
go out doing DJ gigs. I mean, my girlfriend's into dance music and she goes to Creamfields and she'll literally pull up guys that are headlining these festivals on SoundCloud. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
This guy's just giving his content away on SoundCloud, but his headline, she's just like, aye, this is just the way it is.
Yeah.
It's incredible. That is just mind blowing to me that people, their content gets given away. But this is the world that we live in now. Isn't
It
it?
is. It absolutely is.
People don't value content anymore. It's almost like the experience is valued more. So going to the festival is valued more than sitting down and listening. And because when I was a teenager, I used to go into Avalanche. You'd have an Avalanche in Edinburgh, didn't you? I loved that place. Used to go in and pick up a couple of CDs. But I mean, I had between the ages of like 14 and maybe 16, I had a CD collection that had Nirvana, Nevermind, Biffy Clyro's Black Sky, Oasis, Definitely Maybe, and maybe like one or two others. And I would sit and listen to them to death, and I would know every word and every harmony and everything, every guitar lick, and I'd be like so into it.
Yeah.
But now it's just so throwaway.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you can get it so readily available, and it's almost on demand. I love that.
Yeah, same
absolutely
here.
love that. But we don't value it anymore. It's
No.
almost like next,
Yeah.
next.
Yeah.
Which is I think like an unseen consequence of making so much
Completely.
content.
Yeah, absolutely. But that you're right. It was the whole experiential thing back in the day of like going to buy the CD and put the CD in the CD player and then playing the song and enjoying it in that regard. I remember when I was young, and it was me and a couple of mates, and I bought the CD, and there was an advert for the CD at the time. I guess it was probably a Ministry CD, and one of my pals was like, "Oh, there's a song in it that's like absolutely tremendous," and it was the whole thing of like trying to skip through each track and like, is it this one? Is it this one? Is it this one? And it was I don't know if you would even know it, man. It was probably 98, 99, something like that. It was a track called Storm by storm.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And it was like an absolute banger back then. It was just like amazing.
That was one of the tracks that people would come in and buy on like 12-inch vinyl for Virgin Megastore,
Yeah,
even
precisely.
like 2 or 3
It was
years later.
like Positiva Records or something.
Yeah, 2001 I started working in Virgin Megastore, and I remember people coming in and it would always be like, if you go to Storm,
Yeah.
and you'd be like, I mean, growing up in the scheme, I grew up in a scheme called Carntown, which is
All right, okay.
lesser known than, say, Easterhouse. But I remember being in a taxi in London, and the guy was Scottish, and he was like, "Where are you from, mate?" I was like, "Oh, I'm from Glasgow," and he's like, "Oh, where did you grow up?" And I said, "Carntown," and he went, "Ooh." I was like, "Yeah, it's one of these ones where it was small but potent, and it's like sort of scheminess, if you know what I mean." But you had to sort of, again, with the sort of being forced into the space of discomfort or trying to be a sort of hard man. Also, you had to sort of like the music that people liked, and so I was into dance music at a point in time, and that was like techno and happy hardcore, and that was the thing when I was growing up.
As well. Yeah,
so I
bonkers.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Bonkers.
Did you?
I used to go to Bonkers every weekend. Saturday nights, used to go to office party on a Friday night. This was back when I remember having this conversation with somebody that 15 quid was the benchmark. If you could get 15 quid, you could go for a night out. Can you imagine trying to go for a night out at 50? You can't even get a packet of fags.
A taxi.
Can't even get a packet of fags for 15 quid. No, I don't smoke, but that was a benchmark. So that would have been, I was about 17, so that would have been what, 2000, 2001. So that, it would have been 2001. And that was the benchmark. If you could get 15 quid, you could do it. If you could get 20, 25, it's like, yeah, we're going to have a good night out.
Yeah.
Times have changed. I mean, I can't go for a night out now without 100 quid. That's the benchmark now.
It's been that long since I've been out. I couldn't even tell you how much I would spend on a night out, but I wouldn't be getting change of 100 quid, that's for sure.
That's it.
No chance. This conversation is awesome, man. Loving it. I'm just thinking, like, you know, there's so many topics and things that we've kind of slightly addressed and they've just been left in the kind of wake, you know.
Yeah.
Just
keep going, man.
Steam ahead. Steam ahead. Classic. I'm trying to think of other sort of topics that I had thought before you were coming along. I envisaged that we would ultimately talk about some sort of politic stuff. Because that seems to, like, when I look at your Twitter feeds, and you know, quite a lot of it seems to be kind of conversations around the political. That might just be because it's Twitter.
Yeah, I think that Twitter is like almost like a mental spew. Like that isn't how I engage with people. It's kind of unique. I've actually considered changing up and just being less aggravated on Twitter.
Is that possible?
I don't know. I'm going to give it a try, I think. Or just use it less. But, I mean, politically, I try and tend not to, in face-to-face conversations, engage a lot in politics. Mainly because it's a charged subject, but also, I think, like, I fear judgment in that sort of sense, that I know that for a fact that if somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, listen, I vote Conservative and I'm a right-winger," I can engage with that, and I can I'm intrigued to go, well, why? And where does that political view, because it just doesn't compute in my mind, because I grew up as a working class guy, and so that is my story, and I know why I've came to the conclusions that I've came to. I consider myself centre left.
Right.
I would say that I'm a social democrat. I think that if we want to talk politics, I think is a very sort of easy way for me to sort of drill it down. I think there are certain things that the market shouldn't have control over, but there is an abundance of things that it should. I think that commerce, mobile phones, things that we just consumer items, absolutely have a free market on them and have competition and have innovation. But when it comes to things like water, fuel, I think that we should have complete control over
healthcare.
100%. I think housing, these things should be controlled and for non-profit. But then you get into an argument of, well, where does the innovation come from? Especially amongst healthcare. Healthcare's a big one. I don't know. I don't know if regulating it would be stifling innovation. If taking away profit would mean that we wouldn't have Viagra. I don't know. I mean, but I think that these things are far too important. I think that while we're trying to progress rapidly, so end of the Second World War up until maybe 1990, absolutely, let's just see what happens. But I think that from that point on, where we've seen corruption and these things really come into it, I think that there's things that are too important to just let the market just have at. And so I think, like, I spoke to a guy once and he was saying, you sound like a sort of socialist libertarian, where I'm all for people's freedom. Like, if you want to go and do what you want, as long as you're not hurting somebody, don't break the law, I don't care. I really don't care. Like, but when you find out that 90% of politicians are landlords, well, their bias is obviously going to go towards deregulating the and what do we see? Rents through the roof that people can't even afford to pay rent. So I think that there's certain aspects of the sort of political spectrum that there should be like an almost social aspect to it, but I'm not a socialist. Like, I'm definitely not a socialist. I think that the free market and people we should be able to buy, and we should have iPhones, and I'm definitely not up for having like government mobile phones and like the government regulating absolutely everything. But yeah.
So you said beforehand, so the abolition of the monarchy, and there was something else that you mentioned, because you previously identified as
billionaires taking their money.
Billionaires, that's it. You were far or extreme left.
I didn't identify as that, but I think looking back at my ideas, it was like, so I wouldn't have been sitting. I didn't have an iron sickle, and I wasn't like the Red Army. But that was what I thought, and without actually deliberately thinking I'm a socialist or I'm like a revolutionary.
And is it because of those specific ideas that you thought that you were extremely left, or you realised, not having billionaires have money and being against the monarchy? That was sort of like the foundation of your leftist beliefs.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, monarchy's a funny one.
I think that everything needs balance.
Yeah.
And I think that, I mean, I listened to an interesting conversation the other day on a podcast where the guy was saying the extreme right is very dangerous, but the extreme left, not so. And I'm like, well,
really?
Stalin killed a lot of people, but then you could get into an argument of dictatorships versus actual socialism, and where have we actually seen that and on the world sort of scale? But no, I think the both extremes are very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
But I think that for me, the ideal, will we ever have it? I don't know, but it'll be a mixture of both ideas. And this is where I find modern politics kind of disgusting, is that we can't cross over. Why couldn't Theresa May go to the Labour Party and ask them for their best and brightest and get them in and come up with a solution to Brexit? Why is there this just outright refusal to deal with the other side? It's a concept that ultimately I think we pay for, and we see it in Scotland as well. I mean, I'm pro independence, very much so now. In comparison, I changed in 2014. I went from being a unionist to being pro indie at the end, but the landscape has changed so much that it's like we need to try and sort of get some control over what's going on. I mean, Westminster and what's went on since 2014 has been an absolute shit show, and it just shows politics for what it actually is. It does nothing. I mean, we've not had an actual decent conversation about this country or the UK and where it's going and how to move forward since when? Since 2008. It's been battling fires ever since, and I think that politics is literally like WWE. It's like a soap opera.
Yeah.
It does nothing for anybody, I don't think. But why can't we cross over? Like, why does it need to be this absolute black and white and these lines that you can't cross this line? And why can... Yeah, I think that the ideal situation will be a merging of the left and the right into what would be a sort of centre ground. But unfortunately, neoliberalism has made that almost taboo.
Yeah,
to say that you're centrist, and sort of like that it's such a strange thing, but it's so triggering.
Yeah,
because of what's happened in the last sort of 15-20 years under like a sort of neoliberal sort of control.
Yeah.
I find politics like it's so intriguing. I find it like it's so mind-boggling. It's so confusing. I think that the problem that we have and the problem that the world has is that very few people actually understand it.
That's a big part of it. But it's also people's, I guess, unwillingness or inability to be able to simply relate or have compassion or empathy for somebody that doesn't align with their exact views and beliefs. You know, so if I think that, for example, there should be a closed door policy on immigration and you think it should be an open door, it's like, you know, I would be like, you're some sort of left-wing extreme Antifa person and I'm, you know, alt-right. Like, because we just throw around these labels. Yeah. It's just we live in such an absurd time. I mean, even like Tommy Robinson, for example, like there's certain things that I expected would maybe come up in conversation that I think will be interesting discussion points. So there's a video that recently has gone viral. By the time this goes out, this will have been a number of weeks ago, but a video of Tommy Robinson was at like a football game. There's a clip of him knocking down some guy. And look, I don't agree in any way with acting like that, regardless of what the guy said and done. But there genuinely is no context whatsoever as to what's happened there. It's just Tommy Robinson's hit a guy. And I've seen videos of Tommy Robinson hitting other people. Yeah. And then, you know, I've also heard his accounts of what happened when he hit the guy. So there's one where he absolutely like hits a guy square on and the guy hits the ground. And he's in like France or something. And he basically says that the guy was like threatening to stab him and threatening to attack him, and then he came like right at him, and that's why he hit him. Like, I think context in everything is so important, but we no longer look at the context. We just look at the aftermath or whatever's, you know, whatever is actually visual, whatever you can see, and just immediately jumped to a conclusion based on that. And look, I'm not trying to act as some sort of apologist for the far right or anything. I'm just trying to say, look, I try and encourage people to look at everything with some sort of balanced view and try and arrive at a logical conclusion based on an entire picture.
I think
we just don't do that.
We don't do that. A good example of that was the MAGA kids. Do you remember with the American,
man with the red hat?
I was going to say American Indian, or I don't even know what the proper pronoun is for. I know that Native Americans isn't, but I think it might even be American Indian, but I'm not too sure, so apologies if somebody's offended by that. But when you look at what actually happened, the guy was selling the MAGA hats there, so the kids didn't turn up with the MAGA hats, right? They're teenagers. The guy is clearly, they're having a laugh. And then you find out that they weren't anywhere near the guy, and the person that filmed it actually got the guy to go over and stand in front of them and sort of antagonise them so that they could take that video. So I completely agree.
But then the meme that then blew up was this young kid with this red hat,
and it triggered
smirking.
Me, man. It triggered me.
But like what I saw was just like a guy smirking at another guy.
That's it. I mean, what I saw was what rushed through my head was that little fucking rich kid has went and stood in front of that poor guy, and him and his mates are standing laughing at this guy, and they've got their MAGA hats and they think this is funny, and it's not funny. What they're doing is not funny to me. And then you get the context, and then you start to think about it slightly deeper, and then you go, wow, man, I did some shit when I was 15, 16 that if camera phones were about. That sense of empathy that you spoke about is just exactly it. And I think that as we and there's technology that is just on the cusp right now that is going to make this much harder. There's things where you can go and listen to Obama talk about the most outrageous things, and it's not him that's saying it. It's they've took all the words off of like multiple speeches that are out there, and then they just, so we are going to need to get nuance back into things. We're going to need to get context back into things, and it's really strange and worrying that, like you're saying, people just react. And if you listen to what I just said, like my mental sort of cognitions that happened when I seen that, it was the rich kid. So then I'm going back to my working class and that's my bias, but I'm completely aware of that. And this is what I try and say to people that are close to me. Please become aware of these things, because only then can you actually make an informed and an actual, right, I'm going to put this out and I'm going to be happy with it. I'm not just going to react. The amount of times that I react on Twitter and delete it and I'm just like, wow, that was totally not what I thought it was, or whatever it may be. But it's about that awareness. And
it's basically like going through life and having, this is just an analogy that's just popped into my head, but imagine I wore glasses permanently and they had blue lenses, and you, like from birth, and you grew up and you had red lenses, and then we look at, say, a white light, and I'm like, that's blue.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, it's red. And it's like, I'm right and you're right. And so it's me being able to see, all right, that guy's got red lenses on. Yeah. That's why he's seeing it.
I would be like, I'm right and you're wrong. You'd be like, I'm right and you're wrong. But we're both right.
Well, we're both right for us. And it's being, but it not just that. It's not just being able to see, oh, well, it's like me that sees it from, because I've got the blue lenses on. It's also like, all right, he's got red lenses. I can understand how he sees things based on all of his past experiences and his, everything that's happened in your life, the things that have fundamentally shaped the way that you see life. But I don't see people behaving like that. I don't see people. So to use Tommy Robinson again, because he is the most extreme example that I can think of someone, I've not grown up in Luton. I've not grown up, had with the influences that he's had on him. So, it might be, as far as he's concerned, what he's doing is right for him. And I don't have to necessarily agree with the things that he does, but I will seek to try and understand why he is how he is and what he does based on everything that has formed him.
I think when it comes to guys like him, the problem is that he doesn't even believe what he's saying. I think this is where it sort of hits. He's, specifically him, has radicalized so many people but he's using his influence to extract money off of people that probably don't have enough to give him, and he's away and he's gloating, and it's like, well, look at me on holiday, this is great, yous have given me this, and it's like that's where I don't engage with him specifically, is that I've got the feeling that he doesn't even really believe, same as Farage, he doesn't believe the things that he's saying, same as Boris Johnson, they don't actually believe, they've got another agenda that is kind of, I mean, what I find hilarious, especially about Tommy Robinson, or whatever you want to call him, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, or whatever his actual real name is that his supporters and him will come out and go, please go and find an instance when I've been a racist, and then people go, here, and he just goes, no, and it's like, no, mate, come on, like, you need to engage, like, if you're going to, I think that people like him put himself out there deliberately to be targeted so that he can then go, look, well, I was the victim, and he loves that, he loves playing the victim. I've got a specific, I wouldn't quite say it's a hatred for him personally, but I've got a hatred for that type of people. There's another one, Milo Yiannopoulos. He's a troll. These guys don't believe what they're saying. These guys are trying to react.
Katie Hopkins is
another one.
She's the most obvious for me, because I genuinely just look at her and I'm just like, you don't believe that at all.
Yeah, it's same as Alex Jones. Alex Jones is the exact same. These people are, they might actually now, years and years into the spew or whatever you want to call it, might actually believe their own shit.
Yeah.
But these people don't start out believing that. They do it to advance their career.
Totally.
And I think that for me is the part about, I mean, so if somebody, so I can completely engage with somebody that's anti-immigration. There are people might be like, you were just talking about how you're a socialist and how can you think like this, but there are plenty like, you get the rhetoric, right? It's a leftist rhetoric that comes out. I mean, would you even classify the SNP as left? But they're the left now. But about look how much centre left. Centre left. Look how much they contribute to the economy, right? That's
my stomach's doing crazy things here, man. That coffee,
just
it does it every
time.
Stop
gymnastics, man. I get
I've not eaten today, and I don't always have coffee, but I regularly have
caffeine on top of that empty stomach, mate. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, totally.
So the rhetoric, and this is what's used, right? And you'll see it across a political sort of spectrum. And I'm going to use like one example here, like that's on my side, so that people kind of be like, oh, you're biased towards it. Like, so you get they contribute positively to the economy, absolutely no doubt, right? Polish immigrants coming here, Eastern European immigrants, and immigrants coming here from Pakistan, India, China, no matter where they come from. As a group of people, they contribute positively to the economy, right? Who profits from that positivity? It's not the person that you're talking to, or the working person, because ultimately the more working class people you bring into the country, the less opportunities there are for normal working people. The people that profit for that are the politicians and that class of people, because they're the ones that always profit for the economy doing really well. The economy isn't a barometer for happiness.
Why
are we using GDP as like some sort of like be all and end all? Yeah, oh great, the country's rich, but when you've got thousands upon thousands, I mean, it makes me feel sad that on my way to work every morning, I step over at least 14, 15 homeless people. That
seriously
actually makes me want to cry when I think about that, because they've not done anything wrong. Like they've maybe been an addict, and I can totally relate to that. They've maybe just not had the opportunities, or maybe their family have been addicts, and I can totally relate to that because I've seen that destructive behaviour happen round about me. I mean, I always tell people this story. I had a boy that was a couple of years older than me, and he grew up in Carntine, and for lack of a better nickname, he was called Puff because he had like puffy hair, so they called him Puff. And he was a lovely guy, and not once did I ever see this guy get into a fight. And he was the most fantastic football player that I'd ever seen. But his dad was an alcoholic, so was his mum, and his mum was dead. And that guy died of heroin overdose at like 17.
Oh no.
So I always think about that guy when I see an addict, because I was always the first to be like, oh, junkies, nah, man, nah, scumbags. But see, now I'm like, no way. Like, these people didn't even have a chance. They didn't have... that is always what I go back to, right? So that is where this conflict hits each other, the heads hit, because you've got the working class people now siding with people like Farage on the right that have got the hidden agenda of their own profit. Like Rees-Mogg, he's thinking about himself and his mates, and these guys are all privately educated. Nothing wrong with a privately educated person, right? Absolutely not. Before
thanks.
No, but I totally not. There. No, like I've got absolutely nothing against somebody that's got a private education, right?
It wasn't my choosing. This is my sort of default position. It was like, well, you know, I didn't do it for myself.
Yeah, but these. I wouldn't put you in that bracket.
Thanks,
of the
mate.
political
I'm pretty
class.
woke.
Aye, the political class.
Yeah.
I think the problem is so are these people, right? These people know what's going on. They know how things work. If they do X, Y will happen. If they stop funding NHS, it'll get down to the point where it's an absolute shit show, so that they can then go on the BBC and go, well, the wait time, so let's let Richard Branson come in and invest. And that's how it works. Like, and then you get Fox and NBC in America going, look how great the American system is, and look how shit the British system is. And you're like, really? Like,
I know.
300, like an average of $380 a month to maintain your health. You think that's good? Like, I don't. So they know how it works. They know the game. Guys like Nigel Farage, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Boris Johnson, all of them, in fact, even Jeremy Corbyn, they know how the game works. They know how it's stacked in the favour of the haves, and it's playing against the people that have not. And unfortunately, like not unfortunately, I'm at a privileged position where I've transcended my class. I started out a working class person, and statistically, even though I still go to work every day, I would be classed as a middle class person.
Paul, I'm really sorry. I need the toilet.
Oh,
really
no
badly.
worries, mate. Just
I need
sit in silence.
Urgent bathroom break.
Do you just edit your bathroom breaks out?
I would probably just actually leave it in, but we can take it out, I think. Nobody needs to see this.
After a quick toilet break. We were, Robbie.
Toilet break.
We were. So,
Needed that.
We were. I was saying that
Rees-Mogg, Boris Johnson, all about their own
agenda. This is what. So what we see now is we see that, and I think that if you were a conspiracy theorist, of which I've got a lot of information on conspiracy theories.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I've got my favourites and stuff. I see them as entertainment.
I'll just maybe bring your mic up a wee.
I see them as entertainment.
Okay.
A lot of the time, but there are a few that have just been proven to be correct. But anyway, I think that this is kind of deliberately done. So what we're seeing is that and I don't even know if I like calling it working class, but ordinary people, and it doesn't matter what class that you sit in. If you're just an ordinary person, there's managing to just sort of splinter everybody off into their wee groups.
Yeah.
And this is where we're starting to see the friction and identity politics, like you're talking about earlier on, where the reason why people can't even fathom why the other side is because it's such a part of their identity. Like, politics now is just, it speaks to people's like core, so they can't even imagine, why would you come to that conclusion? And I think that that's probably a very good place to start. So if you find somebody that's got an opposing view to yours, is ask them, how have you came to that conclusion, and what makes you? And a lot of the times you find that they don't even know.
Yeah.
Just the same as you probably. Like, I didn't know how, and I've sort of like reconstructed. But the Tommy Robinson thing is, he, to me, has deliberately stoked the flames of these areas. That he's a smart guy. He's a super smart guy, but he's a thug at the end of the day. And he claims to be working class while staying in a very, very rich sort of neighbourhood. And I generally wouldn't give two shits about a guy like that, but when you start to doorstep people, I did an interview on my podcast with a guy where he turned up at his house at 11 o'clock at night, and then at 5 in the morning, and then was put is it doxed, that's called, and put his address out to his followers to go. And this guy, a professional kickboxer, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. This guy's all over Twitter, like, turn up at his house and threaten him, and his wife and kids are there, and a coked up Tommy Robinson, like, that is when it crosses that line.
Yeah, well, completely.
And I've had a lot of people, I mean, am I for Islamic child sex grooming gangs? Absolutely not. But I'm not for the one that existed within the BBC either.
Yeah.
And I think that this is where guys like Tommy Robinson, if somebody was to say, like, point out his bigotry and his bias, it's there. They don't go and protest against any white paedophiles. Like, I would like to see it all be eradicated.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I'm not against people going and protesting these things that happen, because they do happen. But they happen across the spectrum.
Yes. Yeah, I'm with you.
And that's where I think that's where he meets that sort of line of, well, you're only focusing on one side of it, mate.
Yeah.
And it happens. Like, unfortunately, it's an unfortunate truth that child abuse happens everywhere. And you can't just be pointing the finger at one section of society where it's prevalent, because I think it's prevalent across the board, and it has been in the not so distant past.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know that for a fact that it was in the community that I grew up in, there was a lot of it happened. I know people that it affected. I mean, obviously we've had things like Jimmy Savile, Rolf Harris, like Gary Glitter.
Mm-hmm.
Where was Tommy Robinson? He said guys that he stood side by side in the BNP get caught with child porn on his computer. Does he come out and make a wee video about how he's disowning these people? No, he doesn't, because that's where his bias sits, and I think people see through that.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
the one thing that I completely disagree with is how he makes a living out of it.
Yeah.
And goes and travels and stays in his big house, and that's the bit where I'm like, what got me onto this? So yeah, the sort of working people, like, and the immigration argument, and that's where I think that people don't have empathy. So you get a lot of sort of people that are in the middle class that I'm in, that they'll look at the yellow vests and like working class people and be like, these scumbags out there, like anti-immigration. Why is that? Well, they can't go and drive a bus. Taxi drivers used to be able to make it. My brother-in-law's a taxi driver. He can't make a living. Now, is that the individual's fault that's come over for, and if you get an Uber, and I'm not being racist here, it's Polish and whatever, Romanian or whatever it might be, is that individual's fault? Absolutely not. And should that individual be punished? Absolutely not. But this is the reason why there's so much discontent amongst normal people, is because the news is telling you, look, the economy's great, and that these people contribute, and that's great, but in their real life, they don't see it, they don't feel it, and so they rebel against it. And this is why we've got people on the streets screaming at each other, and people think that Brexit's going to fix it. You're having a laugh. Like, they're just handing more control to the people, the same people. Like, they're going on about the bureaucratic and the anti-democratic European Union. I just don't see it. I don't understand how people think that is an actual, like, if you look at the roots of the European Union and what they actually do for like workers' rights and stuff like that, I don't understand why that has become a conspiracy theory, because that is what it is. It's a conspiracy theory that these people sit in Brussels and make laws for this country that we've got no control. Me hand them £300 million. Nope. None of it's true. Like, none of it's true. Like, we get so much back. They managed to convince the farmers to vote for Brexit, and they get more back in EU subsidies than any other part. That just sort of, like, but I've got this empathetic attitude towards the people that voted for it, because I understand. Like, I get it, but you need to be able to see through the shit.
Yeah. I'm going to ask how you think we go about reconciling it and repairing the world. Yeah, I know. But before we get there, because you were talking about pedophiles was one of the things you brought up. I mean, there's people today that believe that is a sexual preference.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff like that. I mean,
and that's people on the sort of highly progressive left.
Well,
I would be inclined to. I mean, I don't even know if that's a political thing.
I don't even know if that's the case. I think that they're trying to get it as part of like LGBTQ.
Yes. Yeah. Is that the P for really?
I think so. They'll try to get it in that area. They're using that platform. I think it's been rejected, quite rightfully so, by the prominent LGBTQ plus sort of people. I think that, wow, what to think that that's a sexual preference is absolutely, that's a mental illness to me. Like, and even that would get kickback at the saying it's a mental illness, but for me it is anybody that's attracted to a child is mentally ill, and I think should be treated like that. They're absolutely, like, get them out of society, but I think that I don't even know, like, I'm thinking on the spot here, but I genuinely think that they're sick. That absolutely not. No way. Now, people, and I've had this argument levelled at me, and I've thought about it, that people went, well, if you go back 40 years, people said that gay people were mentally ill. Nah, man, I think that that's different. Like if somebody is of the age, and I would say that the age of people like, well, what age is an adult? I would say 21 and up. I don't think like people can make rational decisions at 18, 19, but that's another argument. That's a complete different argument. But if you're attracted to like a child, I think for me that is about power and domination, and that has got nothing to do with sort of sexual orientation and love. We could talk about Michael Jackson in that situation. He was a sick individual for me. If you watched,
I've watched
Leaving Neverland, or
I've
is that what it was
watched
called?
about half of it.
So if you heard the
I
boy
don't remember what it's
describe
called,
the first time when the guy describes what happened and how he met Michael Jackson, and it was an escalation of things. Like, first of all, they were like, blah, blah, blah. I've had friends and I've had people that I've spoke to about this saying that sounds very much like the type of sexual experiences that you have as a child with other, like, I mean, I don't know if you would call them sexual experiences, but I had like experiences as a, not a young child, but as like an early teen with the members of the opposite sex that resembled very much what that guy described. But does that mean that Michael Jackson was like mentally a child? I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe that's just the way he's went about. Like, but he was definitely ill. Like he had, I mean, if you put like a sense of empathy onto it, he had a stunted childhood, the way he was brought up and the way that his family and some of the shit that happened to him, but it doesn't excuse it. Like, it explains it, and I'm willing to hear the explanation and go, right, okay, understand it a bit deeper, but like they need that. I'm sort of swithering between here saying they need help and they need punished. I don't know. But for me, it being a sexual orientation, get that in the bin. No chance. Like, absolutely no chance. There are... So, I don't know if you've seen Louis Theroux's... Is it A Place for Paedophiles it's called, or something like that? You could watch that and it gives you a sort of insight. There's a couple of guys that are there that are basically like, I've got no control over this and I've never acted on it, and I've sectioned myself. Right, but does that mean it's a sexual orientation? No, like, what happened to that guy that meant that he ended up attracted to children? Like, please, like, let's just delve deeper. I think that the problem that we get with these types of things, and we're starting to, we're at the cusp, and I'm very, very tentative when I put this in the same bracket. I'm not putting it in the same bracket, but we're on the cusp when it comes to trans, where it's been such a taboo subject that we don't understand it, and now when we're asked to accept it, there are certain people that just can't accept it because it's been sort of very much pushed to the periphery of what we deem acceptable. My opinion, I don't know, I'm waffling on here, but we need to understand it. I think that's for sure. We need to understand why, and then only then can we sort of make the decision on whether we can rehabilitate people that end up in that space. But I think there definitely needs to be a deeper understanding, but there definitely doesn't need to be try to find the word, but we don't need to make it an inclusive thing where we accept it as being just the way people are. Like, no thank you. Like, it's like I said, I think it's in control. Like, for me, that type of thing is always about control, and I think that if you look at the majority, not all victims are predators, but the majority of predators have been victims. So that tells me a story that, well, it's trauma-based.
Well, man, if you sort of extrapolate it out, and maybe this is extreme, and if I get flamed for saying this, then so be it, because it's literally just popped into my head, but, where do you actually draw the line as to sort of allowing or tolerating people's behaviours? So it might be, Ted Bundy had, a sort of inclination to want to murder people. That was maybe his preference. Are we going to make allowances for that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is it all right that Jeffrey Dahmer butchered people and put their brains in the fridge and then ate it?
Yeah.
You know, because that was what he wanted to do. That was what, you know. And so are we to just be accepting of people like that in society? Like, are you fucking bananas?
Yeah.
You know,
I completely agree, man.
there's got but the goalposts are just, to me, they're widening and widening, so that there's just this scope of things now that we are willing to be like, oh yeah, that's okay. It's like, no, it's absolutely crazy.
I think
It's absolutely crazy. And like the whole LGBTQ thing, like I'm very open-minded, and I'm totally willing to accept if someone wants to identify as whatever they want, then, you know, that's on them. That's not a problem. I'm okay with it. But I'm a bit sometimes like, you know, at what point is this just like, well, kind of no, you know? Like, paedophilia can't surely be in the same bracket.
No, I don't think it's a sexual preference. It's, I mean, there's loads of stuff when people talk about, if you look at ancient Greece, and we've got to move forward. Like, surely we can't be looking back to that and being going, well, they had like young boys, and yeah, maybe they did, and but they were great at philosophy. That's fantastic. But we live in a modern world. Like, I think that the line in that sense is kind of clear when it comes to like underage kids or underage people.
Well, I think so, but other people clearly don't.
Yeah, I would like to hear. I've not heard or seen a sort of cohesive argument for it.
There's a TEDx that went like viral because the girl was.
I've listened to it, and she's a nutcase. Unfortunately,
is it even okay to say stuff like that nowadays? Like, I tend not even to actually be vocal on things like, you know, that person is their beliefs are far too out there for me. Yeah, I'm still very tentative and wary about what can I say and what can't I.
She's probably been on this radical progressive left. I think she was actually, and I think she's went a step too far. And I think that is part of human nature is that we always take things too far, but then we rein it back in. And I'm hoping that we rein this one back in, man. But I've seen that TEDx, but I've not seen, and I have searched a couple of hashtags on Twitter and got straight back out of it as soon as I've started being like, what the fuck, like getting raging at some of the stuff. But they're all men. Like, everybody that's been on the sort of social platforms sort of pushing this are all men. So they're probably paedophiles that are all just pushing this agenda.
Yeah.
It's one of these things that's starting to crop up. And the way that they've done it by trying to sort of tag it onto the tail end of the sort of trans question has been particularly disgusting to me. And the way that they're trying to use that platform and sort of get the sort of like, well, can we be included in this? It's like, fuck no. No. Yeah. Like, it's crazy, man. I think that's just batshit crazy to me. But I think like this is so we're talking conspiracy theories there. We could take it back to the monarchy, I suppose, and talk about
what are your thoughts
Jimmy
on
Savile's
lizard
links.
people.
I don't believe in lizard people, but I have a Bohemian Grove. Like, I've watched the Alex Jones Bohemian Grove footage, like the John Ronson Alex Jones stuff. It just looks like a silly club of people that are kidding on to human sacrifice. There's nothing actually happening. They're not eating babies. I don't believe in the Pizzagate stuff. I don't know if you know too much about that.
Not too much.
So it's part of, like, what I find really interesting is that Trump has managed to hijack this community of people. Don't know if you know about QAnon. So there's a Q level clearance is like top clearance in the American government, and then Anon is linked to Anonymous. And so there's a 4chan and an 8chan thread or community of people that believe in this QAnon, and it is believed to be somebody within the Trump administration that has links to Anonymous, that Trump is actually there to out the paedophile ring and jail everybody that's involved in it. And it looks like to me that it has been hijacked, because there's a couple of like mobile phone pictures of inside Air Force One, and I think that because Trump very early on in his campaign as well, was phoning into InfoWars. So I think that there has been a hijacking of the conspiracy theory community because they are hundreds of thousands strong, especially in America with the flat earth and stuff that goes on there, and making them think that Trump's their guy. So there's a wee conspiracy, but that's my own, but I'm just looking at things. So I used to listen to a podcast, the guy, Sam Tripoli, American comedian.
He's been on Rogan,
Yeah, he's got one called Tinfoil Hat, and they went right down the rabbit hole with this. So I've watched a couple of really in-depth podcasts around it. I don't watch it anymore because they've went all Trump.
Right, okay.
They've went pro-Trump. But there is a thing out there, the QAnon, where they think that one of Trump's guys is feeding information to Anonymous so that they can out this paedophile ring that exists amongst the Clintons and try to drain the swamp and sort of air quotes. But that's a deep conspiracy theory. It's linked to flat earth, and it's linked to the Pizzagate stuff, which is supposed to be an underground network of pizza shops in Washington that have got these tunnels under the ground where they move children. That's a deep conspiracy theory. Like I said, I look at these things as entertainment. I don't believe in that for 1 second. What I do find interesting is you'll probably, if when people watch this, they might get some shit for it, but Prince Andrew, one of Prince Andrew's best mates is a guy called, I think, Andrew Weinstein. I can't remember if that's his actual name. Don't think. Maybe I'm getting the Harvey Weinstein stuff. But this guy's a known paedophile, and he used to live in a boat in the middle of the ocean so that he couldn't go back to America. Eventually docked in Florida and get arrested straight away. But Prince Andrew was going out to his boat and spending time with this guy. They went to school with each other, like the known links are there. There's a super injunction out against reporting it in the UK through the royal family. Then you think about Jimmy Savile was Princess Diana and Prince Charles's marriage counsellor, even though he wasn't married. Rolf Harris was the royal portrait guy. And then you kind of go, well, where is this going? Like, where the fuck is this going? Like, all these guys that are linked. I wouldn't be like, they're in on this. Like, that's another conspiracy theory that, like you're saying, the lizard people and the trafficking of children, and that Prince Philip and the Queen are wanted in Canada and Australia for like the trafficking of children and stuff. That's a conspiracy theory. I don't think it's true though. Don't think it's true.
Jesus. I've not heard a lot of these. Where do you come across? 4chan or whatever?
I don't go on 4chan and 8chan. That's dark web. I don't have access to the dark web. I've not went that far. I don't think I'll go that far. I just read. I was more into it maybe about a year ago than what I am now.
Reddit, Twitter, anywhere
anything. I'll read all the articles. I'll go in and I'll read what the Guardian is saying. I'll read what the Daily Mail's saying. I'll try and put the two and two together and try and just be like, wonder where this comes from. But it's all just in like sort of intrigue and entertainment. I'm not taking anything too seriously. I think there's a lot of weight behind the big conspiracies, JFK being one of them. Definitely the story that you're told, the official narrative isn't 9/11's the same.
Moon landing, 9/11,
Moon landing, I don't know. I think my own thoughts on the moon landing is they went and then they found it. And what you see isn't them landing on the moon, and that's why it doesn't really like match up with each other.
Yeah, kind of Capricorn 1-esque. Do you know that film?
Yes,
with O.J. Simpson, where they filmed it. Sort of.
And I mean, obviously, like Stanley Kubrick, there was a lot of references in his movies about how he had filmed the moon landings, and Pink Floyd played live. Which, can you imagine how good that would have been? Think about that. So we're in 2019, 1969. Who would direct our moon landing, and what band would be playing live in the BBC studio? I'll bet you any money it isn't anywhere near as talented as Stanley Kubrick and Pink Floyd.
Spielberg. And
well, Kubrick in 69 was like an up and coming. He wasn't an established like director, so I could understand, but you would be thinking more. I don't even know. I don't even know the names of the up and coming guys.
That's it. Anymore. Probably
Pink Floyd played live in the BBC studio at the moon landing. I mean, that's just magical to me. It's absolutely fucking incredible. But
let's deconstruct 9/11 for a minute.
Oh, where did you start?
Thoughts on it?
In what sense? Let's start there.
Inside job or not?
I don't know. Did they? I think they might have known it was going to happen, but I don't think they were involved in the planning.
What do you think flew into the World Trade Center?
I think they were definitely the planes that flew into it. I think
the planes with actual people that were those planes got hijacked. And,
I think 100%. I'm not into the loose change. The conspiracy theory. There's no windows, and that isn't.
It was a grey plane. That wasn't.
Yeah, that isn't how it would explode if that happened. Well, what happened then? There was people in the street that seen it happening. I think we've never seen that happen. So how do we know? Well,
what about the sheer accuracy and the level of pilot experience that would be required to hit that target?
I don't know. I've got no explanation for it other than that they could have been very highly trained. I mean, apparently they had some training. They were trained by the CIA.
They were flying simulators and stuff,
and single engine Cessnas and stuff like that. I don't know. I've not went that deep on that. I think that if the official, how do you explain the guy's passport being on the ground? I mean, he had it on him in a plane that hit a building and exploded, but his passport was untouched. I don't know. I really don't know. It raises an eyebrow and it raises a lot of questions. I've got no idea. But would I be that surprised if it just happened to have... No, but that's what happened when it exploded. The fucking thing flew out and managed to... I wouldn't be surprised. Stranger things have happened. I think that... Did Bin Laden and... Did they have... I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Aye. But Saddam Hussein had fuck all to do with it.
Yeah.
But I think that the official story is kind of... isn't completely true. I think there's definitely something else. I mean, why was Bin Laden's brother at the White House? Why was that the only plane to take off 24 hours after? I don't know. I really don't know. But I think that it was definitely Saudi Arabia. I think that Afghanistan and Iraq had fuck all to do with it. I think it was the Saudis that did it. And it's kind of like the Lockerbie. So that wasn't anything to do with Libya. That was nothing to do with Gaddafi or Muammar Gaddafi and the guy that ended up in prison in Scotland. That was Syria that did that. I mean, I don't if you've not seen Hypernormalization or any of the Adam Curtis stuff that he did for the BBC, it's incredible.
Okay. I
mean, Hypernormalization's 3.5 hours long, and it shows you the parallels between Trump in the 80s and his rise in the late 2000s that we're seeing just now, and like the political shitstorm that started in the 80s. But that was Syria. It was a Syrian terrorist attack that was greenlit by Thingy's dad. Who's the guy that's in charge in Syria just now? I can see his face, but his dad.
Can't think.
But then they needed his support to invade Iraq in the Persian Gulf War, so they couldn't throw him. They couldn't say it was him. And Gaddafi basically went, "Here's my time to shine. We'll say that I did it." And Alex Salmond freed the guy and get like slated for doing it, but I think they knew that he had nothing to do with this. Like I said, if I'm probably not doing it justice, but Adam Curtis explains it. He's got a series of documentaries that start from the MI5 becoming a thing in the Second World War and the CIA becoming a thing in the Second World War that literally take you from there. Ayn Rand, how they used Freud's theories to manipulate the masses during the First and the Second World War, and he takes you right the way through to modern day. I think there's 8 of them. They're all huge. They're all 4 hours long. But what a documentary series there. I mean, it's incredible. But he puts it in black and white for you. And I believe, I'm maybe people out there go, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's well, neither do I. How do you know? You know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
there's people out there that believe that we live on a flat planet, and I just find that incredible. I find that just mind blowing. Are you a fan of Joe Rogan? I think we spoke about this, didn't we? Do you like Eddie Bravo?
He's a bit out there for me.
So he was on Joe Rogan last week, and he sat and he explained on Tinfoil Hat how he will never talk about flat Earth on Rogan because the platform's too big and it's it isn't his type of person. Like, he'll openly tell you what he believes, as long as I think if he feels that he's not going to get attacked. And if you were to sit on Joe Rogan and go, I'm flat Earth, I'm pretty sure you would get attacked. Like, he's got such a wide sort of spectrum of followers. But he sat and explained how he thought that UFOs were real and all this evidence. It was so compelling. I don't understand why I was such an idiot that I believed this. And then you're literally going, but you believe in flat Earth now, mate? So you're still that idiot, like, that's watching those YouTube videos and still thinks. I mean, there's so many experiments that you can actually do on your own that prove that there's a curve on the Earth. So, but conspiracies for me are a lot. I take a lot of enjoyment out of them. I don't get a lot of sort of serious ideas on like how the world works. Like, I don't think that the lizard people. I do believe in the shadow government to a certain extent, because the people that actually sit behind, like lobbyists, for instance, they don't ever change. So even though the figurehead changes, the people that sit behind it, think tanks, the guys that actually come up with these policies and that are put out there by politicians, these people don't really change. So I'm not like a big believer in the Rothschilds are in control and like the sort of Illuminati. But probably to a certain extent, but they control the money. But I don't subscribe to them being the puppet masters of the politicians. I just think that there's too many huge businesses that have got influence, like the corporations, and like, I think that if that was true, they would never have let Google rise to such an extent. I think that there's too many new things that come out and get that rush to the top of the food chain and get their influence into government for there to be this ultimate puppet master that I think they wouldn't let it happen. Either that or they would own it. Which they might.
Totally.
But Jeff Bezos and like new money, I don't think that they would let that happen. But one way that it does work, and one way that you can sort of prove, like, does it exist? Well, yeah, because George Soros crashed the pound in 1991, Black Friday or 1990, whenever it was, because he didn't agree with John Major. So these people do have the power to influence things, but I don't think that they have control. Like, they're not driving the bus, but they've got the ability to change the course of the bus if they really want it to happen.
Oh man, conspiracies. Like, I'm like you. I sort of used to perhaps indulge and kind of consume quite a lot of stuff about them, because it's quite fascinating.
It really is
fascinating, and it is entertainment. But when it goes beyond that, and you start to get fixated on detail, and it's just not a healthy thing to do.
It can be actually like detrimental to your mental health, because you don't feel like you're in control. And that's the point where I started to go, I'm checking out this, because I'm feeling kind of disillusioned, and then decided to be like, right, I'm going to watch less conspiracy documentaries and start watching maybe more factual based stuff. But I do you know what, it's gave me a healthy skepticism about things. There's been plenty of them that have been proven right. I mean, the Gulf of Tonkin's one, where the start of the Vietnam War, I mean, and the parallels between that and 9/11 are hilarious, because they told the American people that rebels in the jungle sank a submarine. How did they do that? Oh, with an anti-submarine missile. How did rebels in the jungle get an anti-submarine? Well, how did guys in the desert fly a plane into a building, Paul? Like, that's the parallels that sit, you can kind of see it. But that Gulf of Tonkin one, that's been proven to be, that was nonsense. Like, that was a false flag, that they sunk that themselves so that they could get into that war. But then that does make you question a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the one that they used in, I think it was Loose Change, was Operation Northwoods, I'm pretty sure it was called. Yeah. Which was a false flag operation in order to start a war. I think it was Cuba.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's a legitimate, I believe, thing. So yeah, you got to be skeptical.
Do you know about Operation Paperclip?
Oh,
we could quickly talk about this,
rings
because
a
this is
bell.
another one where it's sort of going, well, right and wrong, and the ideas. Maybe you were putting up the thing on Twitter about right and wrong.
Yeah.
So Operation Paperclip was, and I mean this literally, the Americans and the Russians went to The Hague, would it have been? And took the top Nazi doctors and scientists and split them. The guy that eventually landed Americans on the moon was a Nazi doctor that created the B-2 bomber or whatever. Is it the V-2 bomber or whatever? This is where I get my problems, is I don't remember like the names of things, but I know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So then that's like in my sort of self-doubt. I thought, you don't remember things, and that's my story I tell myself, so then I don't. But he was they took them all, like even the guys that were, so it was the kind of the guys that you wouldn't have known about, like the guys that were doing the experiments for them, the stuff that's widely documented. They took them to America, they gave them new identities, and they formed NASA. And the Russians did the exact same. So where's the right and wrong there? Like, these people have been big parts of what was the Nazi party and the Nazis in Germany, and they were doing experiments on the twins and all these horrific stuff in the concentration camps, and we allowed them to be like sort of taken and put back into like society under like different names and stuff. Some of them didn't even change their name. Like was it Warren von Braun? He was the head of NASA. He was the guy that was the head of like the missile department and he was like, Hitler's loved this guy, loved him. Jeez. And he ended up the head of NASA. So then that's where when people within governments start to talk about morality, you can kind of go, wait a minute. And we fought these guys. Did we? Did we actually? Like, why did we take their greatest? And I can kind of understand why. Like, you would take all of their intelligence and all of their research, but why take the people? Like, if they were that bad, if they were that, which they were, I'm no doubting that, but why did we do that? I just don't understand it. I mean, I don't think it happened here. I don't think that we inherited or we took any other scientists, but America absolutely did. I mean, let's say they formed NASA, and that's where, and a lot of the Russian, and then you get that's where they get the propaganda ideas. That's how they get, because it was almost like Nazi Germany was almost like a crash test dummy. It would seem for like where's the line? How far do we take this? Right, there's the line. We don't go over that line, but we can do this and we can do that, and we can manipulate people's emotions. And if you look at, we can test, we can experiment on people. That it's almost like they did a whole load of stuff, and then they went, what did people not like? What did people not like about what we did in that country, or what happened in that country, and what we did, what happened in that country? And it was the concentration camps, it was the starving of people, and it was the extermination, and it was the religious bigotry. That's what they didn't like. But see everything else, right? We can do that. That's almost like in my mind where it went. Because they took the science, they took the experimenting on people like MK Ultra and all these different bits and pieces. Or then people might just go, well, we're just doing the same shit, just without the bigotry. But we're starting to see more of the bigotry now. So
yeah, exactly.
But I think like this is, do you know what, to just so we can go off of conspiracies, because I'm starting to feel like a nutter here. We don't learn. We're not learning. We're not looking back at pre-World War II. We've had peace in Europe, let's just say, because we've not had peace in the Middle East, but we've had peace in Europe since the Second World War. And it's almost like we're at the point now where we've forgot what that looked like and how horrific the two wars were and how devastating it was to our society, and we're starting to move more towards that. People might think, whoa, that's a bit strong, but if you look at what's happening in France, it is literally fascism. I mean, we're if Boris Johnson, or I don't think Rees-Mogg's going for it, but Boris Johnson gets the Prime Minister, gets to be like that. That guy is a fascist light to me. That's the way that I see him, is we're going to end up with a light version. And that's what Trump is to me. He's a light version of fascism. Like, if you look at the fake news and getting the people to turn around and boo and shout at the media, that's where it started. That's where it all started. Get people not to believe the information, first of all. That is literally paramount to like some kind of hostile takeover. And now he's talking about, I could go beyond 8 years, and it's like the alarm bells are ringing. Literally. But who knows where this goes? I'd certainly don't have a fucking clue where this ends.
There was a Vice article that one of my mates shared the other day that basically said that the end of humanity could be in about 2050, like, as in no more humans.
Right, so
like game over.
There's a conspiracy theory that goes behind this.
Okay.
And I don't know this guy's name, and I wish I could. So there was a Art something, the guy's name was. He was a really famous talk show host in America, and he went a wee bit off the rails and ended up on like overnight radio, where he would just sit and take calls off of people. And I don't know if this feeds into this Vice article, because there was a guy that phoned into this. It's a famous conspiracy theory where he phoned into this guy's talk show, and it was like one of these ones that went cross country, and I think that was quite rare back in the 80s, where the truckers would all listen to this guy. Who was the guy we had in Scotland? Scotty McClure, do you remember him?
Yeah.
It was like a sort of night time, and he was on for like 5 hours. No other DJ gets that sort of like length of time to just sit and talk, and he would take phone calls, and it would be a good laugh. It'd be like people's moths would be phoning into like Scotty McClure. This guy used to take conspiracy phone calls, and like people that were out looking for UFOs and their stories. Art Bell. There we go. I do remember stuff.
Okay.
Can change that story in my mind. Journal about that later. A guy phoned into his talk show and claimed to be a time traveller, and that he had evidence, and that he had pictures, and that he could never go beyond 2050. So maybe this guy's real. But that was the thing. He would say that when he tried to go on beyond 2050, he would see darkness, there'd be nothing there. So that's where the world ended in 2050. And he had pictures, but they were all blurry, and he claimed that when he came back through the time machine, it would blur his photos. This was all sort of part of it. It's obviously just somebody that's went a wee bit haywire, but it's interesting that you say 2050. But that Art Bell stuff, if you're for yourself or anybody else, like, such an interesting like guy, and some of the stuff that people would phone him about, and they'd be at Area 51, they'd be saying this has happened in the last 24 hours and blah blah blah. And we know now that Area 51 was just like a concept military base that they were just flying, like the stealth bomber and like all these bits and pieces, and it looked like UFOs. And have you seen, we need to go off conspiracy theories, but have you seen The Unacknowledged on Netflix? It's a good creative documentary. I don't know how true some of the stuff is. They talk about Warren von Braun in that. He's the doctor that told his nanny, so he fell in love with his handler, and she was female. They gave them all female handlers, I think, if they were heterosexual, and male if they were gay. But he was in love with his nanny, and when he died, he told her about 9/11. He predicted some stuff, terrorist attacks. There'll be an army that has no sovereignty, which is like ISIS, and this sort of like, they won't be a national thing that we can go and fight. It will be everywhere. And the ultimate goal would be a false flag alien attack, and that was
false flag alien attack.
So they would dress people up as aliens, and they would come down, and we would have a battle. And then there's the Project Blue Beam. We'll go off conspiracies, but because there's so many, just so many. so many conspiracy theories that you could go into, and they do. You can sort of trace them to each other. That's the fun bit, is where you go, I can see why they've came to this conclusion, because they've been reading that, and then that's came for that, and we know that's nonsense. So then I think that was when I started to get out of it. Was when I actually started to look a wee bit deeper, and then realise, none of this is true. Or only part of that is true, but. I think like some of the blockbusters are definitely worth looking at, and definitely worth sort of thinking about a wee bit deeper. But I think some of the stuff that comes out now is deliberately put out to sort of distract.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? I think there's a lot of it that has been put out there to just distract people for the truth. Because if we really knew the truth, they wouldn't get what they want. Like if we knew, I mean, the 9/11 one, I don't think would be able to happen today. I genuinely don't think they'd be able to get away with that than what they did. I think that was the last time, and I think that they know that was the last time that we could go in under serious false pretense into a war. And I think that they get the shock. I think they get a bit of a shock in the sort of protests that come out. And we live in the information age. I think if Saudi terrorists attacked us and we tried to go into Afghanistan because of that, it would be like, well, why? Why are we going into it? Well, these people are harbouring terrorists. It's just like, it's not true. They've got weapons of mass destruction. It's not true. I don't think they would get away with it. But I could be wrong, because we believe so much. Like,
so true.
Brexit. I mean, we believed Brexit. So misinformation. I'd like to believe that we wouldn't get away with that. We were talking about tangents, weren't we?
Oh man. Tell me, where did your journey into podcasting begin? How did that happen?
How long have we been talking for? Do we know?
That's 2 hours 7 minutes.
Brilliant. See, this is the thing that I get with my podcast is that I feel like the time goes by so slowly when I'm on my podcast. But then when I'm on other people's, it's just like... Because I've got this stream of consciousness that I can just go into and just go on. I think it's good, but I think sometimes I go a wee bit... I think we've just went a wee bit too far. You might need to edit the conspiracy theory section. My journey into podcasting came from discontent in media. And just... I used to be an avid watcher of Question Time, BBC Breakfast News, Sky News. I would watch it all. I wouldn't just read The Guardian, which would be probably my... I think, right, so where did it begin? Stopping reading The Sun was the start. I think, like, I used to be a Daily Record and like a Red Top guy.
Is that quite common in, like...
working class communities,
Yeah, it's because it seems to be quite a Glasgow-based thing, I thought. I don't know why.
No, I don't think so. But I think it's just like I think that they are the lowest common denominator. I think that the tits were on page 3, and the scandal was on page 17, and the reading the celebrity section. And
so when would you sort of procure? When would you, like, what part of your day would you?
I wouldn't buy it. It would just be in work. It would be there. Somebody would buy
just
it.
Just a copy of The Sun.
Just sit and read it.
Right. Okay.
And just flick through it. And then I think it was 2014 independence referendum. Excuse me. I started to read some information and thought, why have I not seen this information anywhere else? Where has this came from? Why are we not seeing this on the BBC? Like, why are we not getting both sides of the story? We're only getting one side. I think as well, even though I'm not a fan, but watching the political assassination of Gordon Brown with David Cameron, you're just looking at Cameron going, why the fuck is anybody voting for this guy? He's literally like a talking head. Like, he's like one of the bobbleheads. Like, and then the coalition that followed that, realising that Nick Clegg and the Liberal Democrats, I mean, their message was so progressive, and they just turned their back on it for political gain, and then realising that was just literally political game playing, and that's like a game of checkers that's about their own advancement. It's got nothing to do with their ideologies or whatever. That disillusioned me. Then, like I said, watching the independence referendum and how that played out. The final 2 weeks of that referendum was shocking to watch for me. Being in Glasgow, literally standing on Buchanan Street and seeing Labour politicians that I recognised walking up the street with their cases in their hand, basically, we're here to save this. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Watching Labour and Tory and Lib Dem link arms in resistance against the Scottish people, I was just like, this is just blowing my mind. And so I decided that I'd had enough, that I'm not going to engage in mainstream media anymore. But also realising that the alternative wasn't great, and that, well, long-form conversation is where I'm probably going to get the truth.
What was when you say the alternative? I mean, the alternative to me was just ignoring it.
No, like the alternative,
like not paying attention to what they were.
Like the alternative media sources, and
oh, I see what you mean.
And that sort of went with the sort of conspiracy, sort of going like, oh man, this is getting me into things that I'm believing things, and they're not true, and it's like, well, okay. And then the alternative medias that were available at that time in sort of 2015, 2016, and then watching a couple of podcasts, specifically ones with Jordan Peterson, and thinking, why do I think this guy's a Nazi? Like, why? What, do you know what I mean? I don't like that. That was like a sort of a breakthrough moment where I literally believed so much about this guy, and then seeing him speak and going, this guy's nothing like we're being told, and then going, right, do you know what? I need to listen to people speak. I can't just take these sound bites and the 30 seconds they get on question time and they're shouting over each other to get their minute. Yeah. And I need to actually engage on this in like a deeper level, so that I think that my thinking's always been quite deep, and I've just never had the platform or the information for me to actually go, right, this is me, and this is how I think. I would always be distracted by one thing or another. And when I get into podcasting, I realised this is, I can form a real opinion about this subject because I've listened to an expert speak about it for 3 hours. And it's almost like going to hustings, or going to, like, back in the day where you would go to rallies and you would hear people speak for half an hour, 40 minutes on a subject, and you would be like, I believe in this person. That, like, I genuinely believe that Bernie Sanders should be getting on Joe Rogan. Get on Joe Rogan. Like, everybody should be going on, and maybe not just Joe Rogan, but they should be allowed to speak for upwards of 2.5 and a bit hours on what they believe in, and there should be a decent way of somebody being able to challenge them on what their beliefs, so that they can then make an argument, and that's not a debate.
Aye.
That's not them arguing their beliefs against somebody else's beliefs, but maybe just holding a mirror up to their beliefs so that they can. So that was it for me, and the reason I started my own podcast was just because I needed a creative outlet, and I was so into it, and I was watching maybe 3 or 4 a day. I was listening to at least one a day, and was on YouTube watching them, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to give this a go because I really enjoy it. Stuck into Google, what's the basics I need to start a podcast, and I had it all, so I thought, fuck it, gotta do it, and I did it. And I mean, I'm 34 episodes in, so 34 weeks of doing it, and I don't do it for anything other than the enjoyment of doing it. I'll be honest, I don't look at the numbers that often. I try and keep it to like maybe once a month. I'll maybe check in on the numbers. I engage with people on Twitter, and I talk to people, and I also engage with people off of Twitter and talk to them about it. But I really love doing it, man. And that's it. I mean, if everybody was like shit, I don't care. It's really about what I get out of it. For me.
I think that's, like, if you're not doing it from that place of passion, wanting to do it, and you're doing it for some other, sort of exogenous material-based shite, then you're never going to continue doing it. You're not going to put your kind of heart into it. Yeah. Because it's just otherwise driven by ego and nonsense, not a drive to actually have proper conversations with people.
Yeah. I think, like, see, like, that's what we've been doing for the last 2 hours. Like, I love doing this. I mean, I have been thinking so rapidly and sitting thinking, like, I some of the stuff that I've been talking about, I didn't come in with, like, a preformed idea, like the paedophile being, like, a sexual orientation. Like, I've not really thought that much about that subject. I'm just coming up with things.
Yeah, forming views as you go.
And that was something, again, that I decided to start doing based on watching a podcast. And I was like, wow, man, that took so much confidence. The guy, I can't even remember who it was, but he stopped and just went, here's what I think. And I was like, wow. I might have even spoke about this when you were
I think so. I think you said it was Jordan Peterson.
It might have been Jordan Peterson.
Stopped for like 40 seconds to
and I was
mull
just
over
like,
whatever he was.
that took so much confidence and an ability that I don't have to go, like, I'm going to take a breath here and form my thoughts in the moment and not... I'll tell you why it impressed me so much, or I'll tell you the opposite. And I've seen this. I've got a friend of a friend, and he's on the right, but I've got nothing against the guy. There was one time where we were sitting and he asked me a question. So he wants to be a provocateur, right? So he asks you these loaded questions that you know that he's thought about.
Okay.
So he's got his answer ready, waiting to go. And he's asking you these sort of probing questions. What do you think of that? And you're just like, fuck, here we go. He knows that. So he's either seen in my Twitter feed what I think about this. It's always something that I've tweeted about in the last 7 days. And he knows it.
That's quite funny.
So it's equal amounts. Like, I like it. I like it because it's challenging.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
that's why I would like that.
Don't get emotional here because you know he's loaded this and blah blah blah. But that's okay for him to do that. Like, this is your challenge to sort of how do I think? And to actually believe what I believe in this, and can I form an argument? And I made an argument towards him, and I used a statistic, and I literally seen him look at his laptop. And I was thinking, and I said to him, like, you're choking to get on that laptop, aren't you? And he was like, no. And I was like, look, mate, see if you don't know what you're talking about, don't talk about it. Don't. So he's asked me to join this political group on Facebook where that is literally, I can picture it, and it might just be my own bias, that they'll literally sit and go, Google what, blah, 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 blah. Right. Oh, right. I think this. And then somebody will be like, well, that's bullshit because blah, 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 blah. And then they go, right, how is that not right? And confirmation bias. And I can taste it. Do you know what I mean? Like, even when I get messages or when I get responses, it's almost like that's been copied straight from Wikipedia. It's not an opinion. That's fact. You're just going on and pulling facts and going, this is what I think. And it's like, that's not what you think. That's just... that I can see the article when you've so that is the opposite of what Jordan Peterson did in that podcast, where he went, let me just not be emotional and let me just think rationally, and here's what I think about that, instead of going, what facts can I pull to back up how I think about this, and well, this is where I think that social media sort of falls foul, is that people are forming opinions on stuff that they don't really know about. And they don't, again, we'll go back to what we were saying in the first instance about having this lack of empathy, that people don't empathise with the individuals, they more just go to the GDP and go, no, look, we're fine. Like, have we recovered for 2008 and the financial crash? Like, that a question. It's like, well, the cost of living is skyrocketing. And I mean, I make a decent amount of money. I wouldn't be like bragging. I'm not bragging. That just for the purpose of conversation at work in my 9 to 5, I make enough money to live. And even sometimes I'm like, fucking hell, man, like, I'm struggling to get to the end of the month. And if you are on a minimum wage job, I'm just like, I'm not a religious person in the slightest, but I pray for you, man, try to get month to month and hand to mouth. And that is how I would sort of quantify if we've recovered. Are the lowest people able to survive? And then right now, no, they can't. But if you were to go to somebody that leans more to the right, they'd be like, but look at these statistics, and employment is at an all-time high, and it's like, but there needs to be the meeting in the middle. There needs to be the statistical recovery that we see, which is great. I mean, the market is doing well, and I understand that, and the unemployment's at a low, but also you need to get to the people and how they, like, do you feel that we've recovered, and how is it to live? And
but so how many people on the political right do you think are, for poor people being poor, or for poor people being continuing to be in a state of absolute poverty?
I think that there is a section of them that within the libertarian and within that sort of right thing that thinks that I have earned my wealth, that my dad worked for that, and it's like, well, you don't understand that that's your privilege, mate. But these people get handed fucking nothing when they were born. Like, Rees-Mogg's a good example. Like, anybody that's a politician, really, other than people such as Mary Black, or, I mean, there'll be more than a few. I mean, there's a couple in the Conservative Party. There's a guy he's always going on about his dad being a bus driver. Right, but your dad was working class, mate. Like, but you were middle class. That's where it's like you were still kind of privileged to a sense, right? But how many, get back to your question, how many people, there are people out there that think that if you're poor, it's because you're either stupid. Trump's one of them. You're either stupid or you've made some bad decisions and you deserve to be there.
Okay.
There are people that think like that, man. Like, I
like the whole get a job type mentality.
Yeah, well,
it's
why
some
don't
sort
you
of
just
failing
go
on
out
their
and work?
part.
Like, exactly. And then, but you don't, these people, they lack the empathy to realise that there are people out there that are hamstrung for the word go. Either, like I was talking about them earlier, people that have been born and both parents are alcoholics. I mean, what chance has that person got? They literally, as a kid, until the point where they're maybe like, or they break free it, are literally worrying about, I mean, I wouldn't name my friend. I've got a really close friend and both parents are alcoholics. He's not the only one, by the way. So he described, and this is where I went, fuck, I get that. Wow, I never thought, because my mum and dad weren't alcoholics. My mum and dad did everything for me to have, even though they couldn't afford it. They would go out their way to try and give me what I wanted. And he described it to me. He was like, I loved school. I was like, all right, okay, blah, blah, blah. And we were talking about that. And he went, I'll tell you why, but mate, it was because when I was walking home from school, I would turn that corner, like for the age of 7 up, I would walk around that corner wondering whether or not the house had burnt down. I would be going into the house wondering if my dad had beat up my mum. I didn't know what I was walking into. And I was literally like, holy shit. I think I had it bad when my dad sat me down and going, you need to be a better man. You need to, like, talking about all these things. I've got friends that literally didn't know what it was going to be like to walk in. What were they getting into? No idea. And that anxiety that they must have felt as a child, it's like, I just want to put my arm around them and go, Jesus, mate. And that is what a lot of these people need to deal with. And then, is it any wonder that they get older and then there's the stigma behind other aspects of, like, the lower classes, like the sick, for instance, that have spent, I mean, think about what it must have been like to be ill at that time when it was Benefit Street and Channel 5 and Channel 4, where it was like benefit theft and like, oh, these scoundrels. I can't even imagine what that mindset's like to be, I can't do anything about this. I'm in a wheelchair and I'm getting people thinking that I'm stealing their taxis. That's my money. That's the type of mindset, like, that these people can't get themselves into. Like,
how much do you pay in tax?
I don't know. And I pay whatever comes out my wages every month. Like, I've got no idea. I mean, a fair amount.
Does it bother you?
Nah, because, I mean, I grew up in a council house. I'm literally the product of the socialism that we've seen post Second World War. I went to a council school. I got a free education at university. I'm literally, like, other than my addictions, like I could be the poster boy of like, well, this guy was born and like both my parents were on benefits. Like my dad had epilepsy at a young age that ended up because of the strain that it put in his body gave him a bad heart, and my mum had to take care of my dad. Now, if that was my situation right now, my mum and dad would be on universal credit. And if you look at the devastation that causes to people on like the caps, like family of 4, it was me, my dad, my mum, my sister, they would have to be surviving on that capped 22 grand. I literally make double that, and it's me and my girlfriend, and I kind of get to the end of the month. Now, I get takeaways and I'll deliver it, and I have Starbucks, so I've got things that I could rein in to get to make my life probably a bit easier. But that's just an example of the sort of differences. So I look at that, and I use the NHS. So I look at my taxes and just think, well, that's for other things. Like I don't look at it as theft.
At what point would you start being a bit like, right, okay, that's too much in tax, I'm afraid?
I don't know.
So
I don't know.
If they were saying, if the government said that they would raise taxes to 60%, 50%.
I think that taking half of somebody's money off them is like, nah, it's not on.
But would it be okay if the person was earning 100 grand a month?
Well, this is the problem is that people don't understand tax. That yes, there is a 50p, there's a 45p tax code, but you only hit that like your first. So I actually explained this to somebody on Twitter the other day, and they were like, "Oh, I had no idea that's how tax worked."
Really?
And I was like, "Yeah, that's why you're an idiot." Like, not calling them an idiot, but that's why you're angry in this area, mate. You don't understand it. Like, the first 12,000 of your money's get no tax.
No,
everybody gets that.
Yeah.
That's universal. Then from 12,000 until 45,000 pounds, it's 20%, and then from then onwards, it's 45. So we have a progressive tax code.
Yes.
The rich undoubtedly contribute way more in tax, but they take home way more. And like, I think that people, I don't know, I'm not smart enough. Like I this is where I sort of hold my hands up and go, I don't have an opinion on this because I'm not smart. I understand how tax works, but that's just because I work in management and I need to manage people's tax codes for my job. So I've got a grasp of it. Don't think that, I know that I just said that's why you're an idiot. Let me just give an understanding to why I think that person's an idiot. Is the idiocy happens is because they're out there screaming about tax when they don't understand the fundamentals. That's where they're not an idiot because they don't understand it, because taxes are really complicated and they make that deliberately so that people don't understand it and they can change it and maybe just tweak it here and there. But for instance, under the Conservative government, the Cameron and George Osborne, where they moved it from 50p to 45, people were like, "Oh, that's okay," and you're like, "It's really not, because that is so much money. Like when you look at the top line, it's so much money that they're actually just handing back to people." And then I don't subscribe to that. Well, if you tax people too much, they'll just not pay it. Make it so that they can't pay it. They can't not pay it. Get rid of the loopholes.
Yes.
Now, I would say that before any sort of rise in personal tax, this is where they get us arguing with each other on personal tax. Please gonna just tax Vodafone. Tax Google. Tax. That's where the big gap for me. Like we're talking like small potatoes when it comes to your tax and my tax. Of course. Like, I genuinely believe if we correctly taxed the big money, then
Starbucks,
then individuals wouldn't need to pay their income tax.
Yeah, of course.
That's and I don't even know if that's true, but I think that if the corporations like British Gas, like Scottish Power, like Google, Amazon pays no tax.
I know.
That guy's
Starbucks.
He's the richest fucking guy on the planet.
Yeah.
He's literally.
He's not anymore.
Well,
I think.
Oh, really?
He was. Yeah.
Maybe he will be in 2 weeks when this goes out. But that boggles. That boils my piss. Like that is one of the things that actually makes me a wee bit angry. Is that George Osborne took 50 million in tax off a Vodafone in an agreement and a handshake when they owed 60 billion pounds over the course of 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm walking past 10, 15 people homeless on my way to work. I just don't see the fairness in that. Now, I can completely understand somebody saying, but they're not directly affecting each other. Like, one doesn't cause the other. I understand that, but until you level one, then we can't even begin to tackle the other one. We need to. There needs to be like a sort of fairness. But taxing, like, I think we should go back to the 1960s and the super tax and 75% and 85p in the pound for the millionaires and stuff. No, man. Like, I think that, and here that you might be like, whoa, because this is probably one of the areas where people were like, you're a proper lefty on this. I think there should be a maximum amount of money that anybody should be able to make.
Okay.
But I think that maximum amount of money should be like $1 billion. I don't think it should be £1 million.
Yeah.
I think that when you've got enough money to last 10, 15 generations of your family, I think you've maybe got a wee bit too much money. How we implement that, and I don't know, man. Again, I'm not smart enough, but I think there should be a cap on the amount of money that an individual can earn. Like, I think it's gross. I think it's actually gross that there's guys that, like, Bill Gates, he gives so much back in charity.
He does do good work. Yeah.
He does, and that's fantastic. But he shouldn't. He shouldn't need to do that. Like, we should make it so. Then again, like, how do you do that?
I know, man. Absolutely.
I don't know, man.
I think that's for another podcast, mate.
Yeah.
To be honest,
I
think
100%, man.
Mate, we need to get you back, and this has been, honestly, I've loved it. It's like 2.5 hours. I'm going to need to watch my time. But this has been.
Listen, see if I've just went off.
No, mate. These are the conversations that I enjoy, because as a facilitator of conversation, if someone's willing to just talk, then that's great. Like, I can, if I choose to interject or cut in at any time, I can. But I enjoy just hearing the stuff, like, consciousness flowing out of you, man.
And that's it. Like, I've literally I lose myself in this because it's like flow state happens. And I have been on KP and listened back and been thinking, wow, like, where did that come from? And it's literally like one of the very few things that I can do, along with like playing guitar and meditating, where I go into this sort of state of like just flow, and I just like love it, and time just passes by where I'm just like, wow, that was nearly 3 hours of talking, and I could keep going and keep going and keep going. Oh, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thanks for having me,
dude. Honestly, I've absolutely loved it. It's been brilliant, and we'll need to get Matt along at some stage as well.
I think he wasn't feeling well today, man.
It's
one of the things. Man, of course,
not a problem.
But I thought, man, I'm just going to get through anyway, because I love doing this, and
man.
So
I'm glad you came.
Thanks for having me, man.
It's a pleasure. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, man.